Good morning and welcome to the Mike Graham Show. I'm Mike Graham and this is the Mike Graham Show and it's 7:01, so very, very sorry, we're about a minute late. 7:01 and 28 seconds to be precise. You can tell by the international clock that actually things are not as bad as you might have thought. I'm here for the duration. Right now until 9:30, we've got some fantastic guests. We've got Pastor Mark Burns coming up. He's in the studio, he's over from America. He's going to be offering up a prayer for the good people of Gorton and Denton, who for some bloody stupid reason have elected the Green Party candidate to be their MP. Absolutely horrendous stuff. Adam McGovern's going to be here, Ralph Schoellhammer's here, Kelvin MacKenzie's going to be around, and Lee Harris joins me for the first time. Lee, very good morning to you.
Good morning to you, thank you for having me.
Welcome to the new Mike Graham Show. I'm terribly sorry to say that the Mike Graham Show sign behind me is still not working. It went wonky yesterday.
Outrageous.
Was it yesterday it went wonky? And we can't figure out what to do with it.
We're in dialogue.
We're in dialogue, well, apparently, with the people who made it for us. It's basically fused. Normally it's sort of shiny blue, thing going on. But we've only got one story in town, haven't we? It's Gorton and Denton, and it's the Bleeding Green Party. I think I've got, if I'm not mistaken, a rundown of exactly who did what. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, I haven't actually seen the results yet.
Yeah, so the Green Party won with 14,980 votes. Reform got 10,578, so quite a big distance, really. The Labour Party came third, 9,364. Tories, 706.
They're done.
Which is really, really hopeless. Lib Dems, 653. The Looney Party, 159. More than Advance, who got 154. So,
and what was Labour's final tick again?
What
was Labour again?
Labour was 9,364. So a good, 1,200 behind Reform. And this is one of their safest seats, right?
Yeah.
I think their fourth or fifth safest seat in the country. They've come third, and it's a bleeding disaster. Let's have a look at some clips. We've got Lucy Powell, I think, Pooch, telling us why she doesn't think it's, in fact, as big a disaster as we do.
I just looked it up. It'll be the Labour's 7th worst ever by-election defeat. It's a disaster, isn't it?
What, do you know the percentages, do you?
Not yet, but...
Right, so I don't know how you can work any of those things out. But look, I think, at the start of this campaign, I think the vast majority of pundits and others like yourselves had written us off. We have been in contention in this seat. People have been grappling with what to do, choosing between Labour and Reform, Labour and the Greens in many parts of the constituency, choosing between Labour and Reform in other parts of it. And, on the day, the Greens have won that argument more strongly than we have about keeping out Reform. But at the next general election, the choice across the country, not just in one constituency, the choice across the country will be between a Reform government or a Labour government, and I think that will focus people's minds in a different way. But what we've got to do in the meantime, between now and the next general election, is show people that we are on their side, that we are delivering for people, that we are delivering on our Labour values and telling a strong Labour story about how we are changing this country and about why we are the best vehicle to defeat Reform at the next election and to carry on delivering those values, because those values are what unite most people in this constituency. I'm really clear about that.
I know you voted to let Andy Burnham be a candidate here. You were 1 against 8. Looks like a bad decision, that, by the executive and the Prime Minister, doesn't it?
Well, that's been written about plenty. I don't know that we need to write about that, anymore. And Andy Burnham, no one wanted to win this seat more for Labour than Andy Burnham and Keir Starmer, and both of them have played their role in this campaign alongside me, because what we've seen actually in the last 3 or 4 weeks is the whole Labour team pulling together as one team. Andy Burnham, Keir Starmer, Lucy Powell, Angela Rayner, Wes Streeting, the whole of the cabinet coming and working as one Labour team to try and get our message across to the voters in this constituency. And I hope that's something we can build on in coming weeks, because when you work as...
Lucy Powell there, being slightly disingenuous. She's such a chippy woman, isn't she? I mean, every question she gets asked, she's got some kind of nasty, horrible answer. Lee, it's quite an extraordinarily bad result for Labour, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a seat they've held for a very long time.
Yeah.
I think this is indicative of where we are now with our political landscape. The Labour Party and obviously the Conservative Party, I would say as well, are dead. The time of two-party politics is over.
Yeah,
and
I was listening to Peter Kellner talking about the result after the announcement of it, which only came through about 4 o'clock this morning. Peter Kellner, of course, is a sort of, psephologist of old. He's somebody that studies elections and people's voting habits for years and years and years. And he was saying that this could be the first real sign that the old two-party system's finished.
Yeah.
Because you've now got two parties who are being voted for in the vast majority of people, 25,000 out of, the 40-odd thousand people that voted, voted for two parties which are not traditionally part of the landscape.
Yeah. I think we've all felt it in our bones a little bit for a long time. We've seen it in the polling. I'm very pleased about this. I personally wanted the end of entitled two-party rule, but it has its downsides. Yeah. And one of its downsides is it's exposing this really nasty sectarianism within our politics, which I think we should all be extremely worried about. And what we're going to see probably from today is everyone brush over that. Everyone on the mainstream media will brush over it. They won't think anything of it. But it'll be independent media, it'll be online. That's what people are going to be talking about, and rightly so.
And because the sectarian nature of what happened last night is sort of has got many different sort of aspects to it. One, we've been told, and Nigel Farage has spoken about this, that there was a lot of family voting going on.
Yes.
Now, what I don't understand is that if you say there's a lot of family voting going on, how is that not illegal? And how does it not null and void the whole contest?
We are useless in this country when it comes to voting integrity. Don't get me wrong, we haven't got a massive problem with it compared to, say, other countries. Yeah. But we've seen this for a very long time. I don't know if you remember there's a by-election back in Peterborough, and there was election fraud there. Someone actually did get prosecuted for it.
Yeah.
It does happen, and it does happen, unfortunately, within certain communities. Yeah. And what was happening in Peterborough...
Well, it's not within certain communities, is it? It's within one community.
One community,
It's within the Muslim community.
Yeah, I was trying to be a bit diplomatic.
Yeah, don't worry, this is the Mike Graham show. You don't have to be diplomatic, you just tell the truth.
I've got Ofcom hat on. But no, you're absolutely right. It's within the Muslim community, and they'll go around to houses, and what's happening in Peterborough sounds exactly the same as what's happening in Gorton and Denton. Yeah. You'll get a knock on the door from the canvasser. The canvasser will know the family very well because they'll know each other, and they'll basically help them fill out their postal voting form, which, by the way, postal voting in my book should be completely got rid of. Yeah. The only people that should get a postal vote is military personnel.
Or people living abroad.
People living abroad, or if you're unwell, you physically can't make it. That's it.
Yeah.
That you should have to apply for it.
It shouldn't be an industry, should it?
My mum's like this. She might even be watching, but she will just get a postal vote because she can't bother to go down to the polling station. Right. I'm like, come on, just get yourself down there. And I mean, still, even with all of the kind of madness around this particular by-election, everybody knowing how important it would be, it's still less than 50% turnout. Which is still, it's a reasonably high turnout, because I think it's about 48%, which is about sort of the level it would have been during a general election. So for a local election or a by-election, it's actually quite good. But you have to remember that still basically half of the population of Gorton and Denton didn't bother to vote. No, that is true. And this family voting is a bit new to me. I hadn't heard that term until this morning. And they were saying that it involves people going into the polling station.
It involves more than one person going into the polling booth.
That is not allowed.
Which is illegal, right?
Yeah, you
so what I don't understand is if there's reports of that going on, how is it that this entire result is not declared, as I say, null and void, and they say we'll just have another one? I live in Denton. I've never seen so many Muslim women. I watched about 5 come out of one house. I've never seen them before. Are they locked up all year? Says 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, yeah, probably tied up in the basement. I mean, I don't know. It's difficult to know, isn't it? But the point is that apparently an awful lot of the women in these Muslim communities don't speak English, which is why the Green Party put out a campaign video in Urdu, which we played the other day, and then put out another one in Bangla for people from Bangladesh. So Bangladesh and Pakistan basically have won this election for the Green Party. I mean, that's what we're talking about.
These people call themselves the anti-racists and the anti-fascists, yet I believe they're the ones who are being racist and they're the ones who are being divisive by going around, essentially proving the point that we have enclaves in this country, areas that you can go where no one speaks English. Right. I just don't want our politics to be like this.
Well, the country shouldn't be like that. No. And we shouldn't have representation in Parliament for people who are not really, to all intents and purposes, taking part in British life.
And with all due respect, when it's a by-election, when it's a local election, what I care about locally, I don't care about Gaza. What I care about, my bins getting taken out. I care about the potholes, and I care about things that are happening in my community. Sure. I don't want to hear from MPs or candidates who are talking about Gaza or international issues at all. And this is where I see our politics go. Well, it is already there, to be brutally honest.
There's no question. And we've also now got a government with Keir Starmer running it, who, by the way, is toast. I mean, if he didn't know already, he should now know this morning as he wakes up that he is completely and utterly finished.
Yeah.
Dead as a dodo. He might as well just get lost. Because this, as we said, is the fourth or fifth safest Labour seat. They haven't even come second, they've come third. They've lost every single person in this country's trust. People were talking up there that they feel let down massively by Labour. They don't represent the working classes anymore. No. They simply represent the kind of chattering classes of some rather wealthy parts of London. And in fact, even though they are still kind of quite, shall we say, left-wing and considerate of the Palestinian cause, it's not good enough for the people who want Palestine to be free. They say, oh no, you've let them down. And so an awful lot of the people that will have voted for the Greens have done it because they don't like Labour's policy in Palestine.
Yeah, as far as that lot are concerned, the far left, Keir Starmer is a Tory, he's on the right, and he's pro-Israel and all of this. I was just thinking to myself, I wonder what if Andy Burnham's been messaging Keir Starmer this morning.
Yeah.
Sent him a quick WhatsApp.
Right.
Sent him a few swear words.
Well, I wonder if Andy Burnham's sitting at home this morning thinking, thank Christ I didn't run as the candidate, because although people say they think he would have won, I'm not so sure. I'm
not so sure, actually. I think he probably would have got a better result than Labour got this morning. But yeah, you're right. I mean, looking at the voting patterns, I was listening to John Curtis this morning, and he said basically that even with the sectarian voting, if you add up the constituency, the amount, it actually, Labour and Reform still wouldn't have won. And I found that quite frustrating, to be very honest.
Well, according to, again, Peter Kellner, that I was listening to this morning, I think 70+% of votes in the constituency last night went to either Reform or the Greens, which tells you how powerful those two new parties are.
Yeah.
And Reform, I think, we're hoping to speak to Sarah Pochard a little bit later on this morning. I think Reform will be pretty pleased that they came second. I mean, they would have wanted to win it, obviously. Matt Goodwin would have wanted to be the guy that came out on top. But I think they'll be pretty encouraged by the fact that they beat Labour into third place.
Yeah, one thing about Reform now is they're no longer a small kind of fringe party. They are a mass movement party. They were able to get 1,000 canvassers into Gorton and Denton, relatively instantly.
Yes.
Only big parties can do that.
Right.
Green Party managed to do it as well. Apparently they got even more, as I heard it. But yeah, I mean...
Well, you'd have to say the difference between the Greens and Reform, 14,980 versus 10,578. Now, that 4,000 odd, right, a little bit more, could entirely be down to the Muslim community, couldn't it?
It could be, yeah. It probably is largely down to... and again,
because I think there's 30% of one part of the... I'm not sure if it's Denton or Gorton, but one of the two sort of towns, if you like, has got 30% Muslim population. And they would have all voted for the Greens.
As far as I'm aware, there are about 50 constituencies where the Greens potentially could replicate, copy and paste what they did last night across the country. I don't honestly think they're going to be anything to contend with at the next election.
The Greens?
Yeah, I don't think. Maybe they'll turn into the Lib Dem-sized party, that sort of size of the vote.
Well, the thing is, I was thinking about this, and I don't know about you, driving in this morning. What do they actually stand for? What's their policy on things? We know they want to legalise all drugs. We know they want to legalise brothels. They want to apparently lift all the sort of restrictions on pornography. What else do they want to do?
Open border policy.
Open borders, that's right. So, I don't think anybody sensible in this country would vote that sort of party into power.
I can't try and get my head around it, Mike. I can't. You try and get your head inside of the leftists. I've got to admit, I don't know. I get it, right? They're probably very angry with the Labour Party right now. They're looking for someone to vote for. I think probably a lot of them are feeling politically homeless at the moment. And the Greens offer that stopgap, I guess. I would probably guess that a lot of people that are voting Green probably aren't loving all of their policies.
No.
It's more to do with...
It's more of a protest vote,
It's
isn't it?
more of a protest vote.
I would imagine as well that, because from what you can see sort of, anecdotally, it will be mostly minorities who are voting for them and young people who are too stupid to know any better.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that to be an insult, but it is.
No,
do you know what I mean? Legalise hammers for toothbrushes. Yeah, that's good. I like that one. I've got this actually message from Mark who says, should parties be allowed to advertise in other languages in the UK to gain votes? votes. That's how they won the vote. You should only be allowed to campaign in English. Well, I agree with that.
They shouldn't be allowed.
That's bonkers, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's have a look, actually, at Hannah Spencer, because Hannah Spencer is now going to be an MP, right? She's going to be making approximately £95,000 a year as a salary. She'll be claiming bucket loads of money in expenses because living in Manchester, she'll be entitled to a second home in London. She claims to be a plumber. Nobody believes her. But have a look at this. This is her dancing around to some Indian music, or maybe Pakistani music, I don't know.
The Green Party is where the party's at. And look at this. Vote Hannah Spencer! Vote Hannah Spencer! Vote Hannah Spencer!
So taxpayers' money is going to be spent on this bint, right? And I'm sorry to call her that, but that's what I'm going to call her because that's what she looks like. And no doubt she'll say that's a misogynistic term. It's not really. Twit is also a good term, and that's gender neutral, I think. What about this one? This is what she had to say about the very near mosque attack up in Manchester at the weekend.
To our Muslim communities who this week suffered an attempted attack during Ramadan, whilst I was being welcomed by women at a mosque in Longsight, someone just down the road walked into a mosque carrying an axe. And whilst we were gathered and eating together, an act of terror could easily have taken place. And I can't and won't accept this victory tonight without calling out the politicians and divisive figures who constantly scapegoat and blame our communities for all the problems in society. My Muslim friends and neighbours are just like me, human. And of course, to our white working class communities, the background that I have become so proud to be from, we know how it feels to be looked down on, maybe because we didn't do well at school, maybe because we do dirty manual jobs, because we are shut out of places we should be in. To people here in Gorton and Denton who feel left behind and isolated, I see you and I will fight for you. Because whilst our communities may sometimes be labelled in different ways, the thing...
Yeah, that's enough of that rubbish. She's just annoying, isn't she? Really, really annoying, irritating as hell.
She's making the point there, she's insinuating that anyone who doesn't share her politics believes that migrants are not human.
Yeah.
And then she has the nerve to turn around and say that, you know, people are being divisive or Reform are being divisive. All Reform are doing, and anyone on the right are doing, are wanting to talk about the issues that we have, funnily enough, with integration and the reasons why she has to do videos in Urdu to win an election.
Yeah.
They're the ones who are divisive.
Totally.
The hypocrisy is awful.
I know, it really is absolutely ridiculous. And I mean, you know, we've got quite a few super chats to do. A couple have come in. This one from Tyler, who says the Greens won simply because they are pro-Palestine, and that is the only issue that Muslims who don't care about Britain at all actually care about.
I'm not sure about... Yes, it brings them all together. I'm not sure that that's why they won that vote because of Palestine in Gorton and Denton. They won that vote because it was an anti-Reform, anti-Labour vote.
Yes.
That's why they won.
Yeah. But isn't that the same thing, though, in a way? Because, I mean, they're not demonstrating against, you know, Labour's asylum policy, for example. They're not demonstrating against Labour's inability to run the economy.
I guess in their minds, they probably just think that Labour aren't going far enough on Gaza, therefore they're probably on the same side of the debate. If you had two parties that were just as strong on Gaza, for example, two sectarian parties, I don't think that they would choose the Greens just because they like the Greens. I honestly think that the vote for the Greens last night was just the fact that they didn't want, or that group of voters didn't want reform in, and they certainly wanted to give Labour a bloody
Well, one of the things we were saying yesterday is that there's a great sort of disconnect between Green Party policy on things like, you know, gay rights or trans rights and Islamist rights.
Absolutely.
Because how on earth can you put those two together? And if you're a sort of traditional, I don't know, Muslim voter living in Manchester, where you've got a wife who doesn't speak English, you've got 15 kids or something, and you tell your wife which way to vote, and you're very religious, and you know you don't believe in adultery, you don't believe in brothels, you don't believe in pornography, you don't believe in you know, sexual rights for gay people. How are you voting for a party that believes in all that?
It's an unholy alliance.
It doesn't make any sense, does it?
No sense whatsoever, and it will come apart. In fact, we started to see little breaks of it with your party. I don't know if you remember, they did that ludicrous conference where they started to vote on policy.
Yeah.
Well, it fell apart in front of everyone's eyes. They were basically attacking Jeremy Corbyn's mates, the independent MPs, calling them transphobes because they are. You know? So it's going to fall apart, and the Muslim vote will ditch the Greens like that.
Yeah, absolutely right. Can I have that message again, Pooch? Because I didn't get a chance to read it. Oh, excuse me, I've got a bit of a tickle in my throat today. Gays for Palestine is full on hilarious. If you didn't laugh, you'd cry in frustrated incredulity, says Ornamental. You would, because if they went to Palestine and paraded around with their rainbow flags, they'd all be chucked off the top of the nearest building. Without a parachute. Unbelievable. A couple of other stories to mention, obviously, but this one kind of related to the sort of the Gaza scenario. Successful asylum claims rose by more than a third last year, according to official figures from the Home Office. There were apparently 55,000 migrant refugee status were granted to stay in Britain, up 35% on the previous 12 months. So basically, this government is offering asylum to more people than the last government was.
Yeah, I'm not surprised either.
But what happened to smashing the gangs and cutting down on people coming into this country?
It's sleight of hand, isn't it? They're trying to bring down the backlog, so they're just going to basically just approve asylum cases for everyone. Well, there's a really horrific incident as well, which is happening in the Home Office, which is completely dysfunctional, as we know.
Right.
Alison Pearson's been speaking to a whistleblower who I think is still in the Home Office, who are approving asylum cases for sex offenders and criminals. One guy...
Why?
Because a couple of reasons, right? Firstly, quotas.
Right.
So they're all given an amount of people that they've got to approve.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, you get quite a few approvals on a Friday because everyone wants to get out of the office early. You can actually see it in the statistics, apparently. And
I'm surprised they're in the office on a Friday. So they're not working from home on a Friday.
One of these whistleblowers refused the asylum application from an immigrant that was caught exposing themselves in a child's playground.
Right.
Obviously, right? And she was told that she had to approve that asylum case, otherwise she'd lose her job.
Dear God.
So we've got it from both angles. We've got the actual Home Office just approving anybody without caring about their criminal background,
right.
and we've got them approving even more asylum cases to try and clear this backlog. They don't care. They're putting us at a huge amount of risk.
Yes. And the point is as well that, but when they say clear the backlog, what they don't mean is, let's examine these cases and kick some people out of the country. What they mean is, let's look at these cases and grant them all asylum.
Yeah, totally.
And just, green tick them.
They should deport the backlog.
Yeah, right. That would be the
Straight
easiest
up.
thing to do, wouldn't it?
Just
And say
deport
to them, start again. If you want to try and claim for asylum, go back to your own country, claim for asylum through the embassy, and we'll see how we get on.
It would be the easiest
But as long as
solution.
you're here illegally, bugger off.
Yeah, it would be an easier solution. Just deport them.
It really would be simpler, wouldn't it? Let's have another look at some of the other clips we've got this morning. How about this one on family voting? Pooch, number 5, I think it is.
There is also another potential theme emerging tonight, and a worrying one at that as well. Reports of potential voting issues in polling stations regarding family voting. Just explain what's going on.
OK, there's a very serious narrative that I think we're going to be talking about for some time developing. Just after 10 o'clock, a report was released by election observers. It's a group called Democracy Volunteers. What they do is they don't just do it in Britain. They go to elections all around the world and observe. And they don't do this often. They've issued an immediate report about today's polling and what they observed. And what they said is very striking. They said that they saw actual incidents of what they call family voting. That's where more than one person goes into the ballot box at the same time, often a man standing over a woman. That would typically, they're saying that they saw family voting in 15 of the 22 polling stations, in some cases, in 32 cases, some 32 cases of this in total. That would be a big and profound concern to a lot of people. Now, the council have responded rather angrily to this claim, saying we're very disappointed that Democracy Volunteers have waited until after the polls have closed to make such claim. They feel quite stung in all of this. I have to say, Democracy Volunteers say they did tell presiding officers during the day. So it's a big row to come. But this is going to be seized on. Right? I think we're going to listen to what the returning officer says when the count is announced, but politically this also matters. I think we can look at a piece of social media from Nigel Farage, the Reform UK leader. He's calling this deeply concerning. He says that this raises serious questions about the integrity of the democratic process in predominantly Muslim areas. Now, actually, the report doesn't mention Muslim areas, but I was in Gorton and Denton and just trying to talk to people. I did speak to try to speak to a number of members of the South Asian community. Women turned to me and just said, no, my husband deals with that. Gosh. And I was quite struck by that. Obviously, we couldn't capture that on camera. And I think that this is going to dominate the night.
Well, especially if it is a really close result as well, because that is going to come into, play, isn't it?
You could theoretically be in legal challenge
Yeah,
territory,
yeah.
and there's a very difficult conversation that British politics has had before about postal voting and about the role of different communities and the way that voting happens and the way that campaigning happens. This isn't going to be pretty.
Yeah, see, I don't understand how you can sit there as a pundit and or stroke a political commentator or a correspondent and say that there's an issue with something illegal taking place at a ballot situation, and then nothing happens about it. I mean, surely to God, if people are reporting that family voting is happening, which is illegal, then the whole vote ceases to be valid, doesn't it?
I absolutely agree. I don't understand how they can call out something like this and not do anything about it.
Right.
And like I said, I'm genuinely just as shocked that we had election observers at this by-election. I haven't heard of that before.
Yeah.
And as I understand it, they were described as international observers when I first heard it, and I thought that's quite interesting. But apparently they're not. Apparently they are to do with the Electoral Commission.
Yeah.
What makes me wonder why they wanted to.
What are they doing there? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they suspected there could be an issue.
Right,
with,
and if they are there to make sure that everything is done legally, then why are they not saying anything about how it hasn't been done legally?
So they were sent there because there might have been a problem with it. They then witnessed a problem with it, and we're still announcing the result of the by-election.
Yes.
That's the bit I agree with you on. So I do not
It makes no sense, does it?
If you've had noticeable election fraud, you either void those votes, which is impossible because they just go straight into a massive bag of votes, and you don't know whose is whose, or you rerun the election.
Yeah.
And I would argue you rerun it.
I think you rerun the election.
I don't think it would change the result personally. I don't know. Maybe it would. Maybe there would be enough.
They'd probably increase the green vote. You get even more people into the ballot box. You know, how many wives you got? 7. All right, that's 25 votes to you. I mean, it's bizarre, isn't it? That Green Party girl might not be so chirpy after she's met the half a dozen imam advisors who will be guiding her on local community matters, says Cliff. I think that's right. Also, we should talk about just a couple of other stories. I know that there's only really one game in town, but Lee Harris is here, and all the front pages, of course, because the result didn't come in until about 4 a.m., haven't got a mention, really, of the by-election. But what they have got a mention of course, is the story about Ian Huntley, which I think was originally broken by The Sun. The other papers have picked it up. Soham killer close to death after being battered with a metal pole. Front page of The Sun saying killer bludgeoned Huntley with metal spike, then bragged, I've done it. Basically, Huntley is 52 years of age. He's now in hospital fighting for his life after the assault at HMP Frankland in Durham. Apparently he was attacked by a guy called Anthony Russell, who's a triple killer, suspected of battering him in a workshop using a makeshift weapon.
Absolutely zero sympathy.
Yeah.
It's very hard for me not to say it even more aggressively than that. But I have
I think most people would share that view.
Yeah. And you can understand, the man is a monster.
Yeah, it's horrible, isn't it?
I struggle to even recall what that man did because it's very hard to think about. So God knows what the family is still going through.
Yeah.
So that's where my thoughts are.
Yeah,
That's who I care about. I couldn't care less about Ian Huntley. And I won't say any more.
No, I think
get
that's
myself
fair.
in trouble.
Fair. I mean, I would never challenge you on that. Lobbying company founded by Lord Mandelson has discovered during an internal investigation that a significant tranche of his business emails has gone missing.
No way.
No. I mean, he had a few weeks to just put all of his stuff together and put it all in a big box.
Time. It's so frustrating.
I know. Why? I mean, am I the only person? I'm sure I'm not the only person. You just sit around and go, huh? Well, everybody could have told you that's what would have happened. If you go to Peter Mandelson's house, you search it, there will be things that you didn't find. There will be things that he knows about that you don't know about that he will get rid of, which he's clearly done.
What this stinks of to me is it feels like there are certain people who get treated slightly different by the authorities.
Yes.
Right, so yes, he's been arrested because he kind of has to be arrested.
Yeah.
But he has been arrested, hasn't he? I'm getting that right. Yeah, he's been arrested.
He was arrested and held for not very long, a few hours.
But I just get the feeling, Mike, that if it was either me or you, or just a normal member of the public, we would not be given 2 or 3 weeks to clear out our offices and delete emails. And as I understand it, it was a company that he had, a polling company or something like that. And there was thousands or a very large chunk of emails that just went missing.
Yeah. It's like a lobbying company, I think.
A lobbying company, that's it.
And the lobbying company has apparently gone under because they're no longer lobbying for anybody. Because nobody really wants to put about some lobbying at the moment. You know, hello, excuse me, what's your name? Peter Mandelson.
Contact book's probably useless
slap. You know, we'll see when he come out of chokey. Sorry, of course, he's only been accused of things. He hasn't yet been convicted.
Allegedly.
I'll just mention that in passing. Also, front page of the Telegraph today has got a story saying that apparently the Spanish police are going to start patrolling Gibraltar.
Oh, for God's sake.
Under the British territory's Brexit deal.
Is there no good news, Mike?
Breaking a previous pledge for no boots on the ground. Officers will be handed the power to carry out surveillance at the airport and the other ports as well, so that when anybody comes into the country, they might be escorted out again. And it says they're going to arrest illegal migrants and deport them. Well, can the Spanish police come and patrol Britain then as well? Because then we could kick out some of the illegal migrants who are already here instead of giving them bloody asylum.
It's a joke, and it's a betrayal of the principle and the spirit of Brexit.
Yeah.
I just don't trust him. It's probably quite a common view, but I don't trust Keir Starmer at all.
No.
There's always been a little.
Nobody does.
No, there's always been a little part of me that thought, look, I hate the guy. He lies through his teeth. But he can't reverse Brexit. He can't, can he?
No.
You know, and there's this bit in my brain that just goes, can he?
Well, I mean, the question about Keir Starmer to be asked this morning is, can he still be in power as the Prime Minister after this terrible defeat to the Green Party, coming third in this by-election?
Well, one thing I think
surely this speeds up his departure, doesn't it?
I think so. I mean, I'm surprised he's still there, but he's an arrogant git.
He is.
And you saw those interviews that he did with Laura Kuenssberg and various other people where he basically just said, I will be seeing us through to the next election.
I was voted in to change Britain.
Yeah, I don't know whether he...
actually.
I don't know whether he believes that or not, but part of me thinks that maybe he does. Maybe he believes that mandate of his he got because he's a wonderful person. He thinks everyone loves him.
Yeah.
I mean, surely he can't think that now after seeing all the polling.
I mean, he used to use mandate in a different way before he was in power. Obviously, that's a terrible slur, which is just a joke. Finally, Waitrose are going to stop selling mackerel.
What?
Now, this is particularly of interest to me because I bought some mackerel by mistake from Waitrose for the dog because he likes a sardine.
It's good for dogs. Good for their skin.
In spring water, right? And for some reason, there he is. He's got bad foot at the moment.
Look at him.
He's getting better though. And I got some, and he really liked the mackerel. But apparently, the seas are running out of mackerel, so Waitrose has decided they're not going to sell it anymore in order to replenish the stocks.
Well, this is outrageous.
That's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah.
Totally mad. I mean...
Have you told the dog yet?
I haven't, no. I'll see him at the weekend. He's not going to be too happy, though. I can tell you that. In fact, I might go and stock up on mackerel.
I'm sure if you switch the fish, you won't mind too much. Maybe there's different one you can get, maybe?
Well, possibly. We shall see. Anyway, Lee Harris, thank you very much indeed. What was that, Pitch? Pilchards, yeah. Oh, God. So, but they're usually in a tomato sauce, though, aren't they? I mean, I like them just in water for him. Oh. You know, I'm not keen on pilchards. Sardines and mackerel, I think, definitely.
It's very good for
the way to go. Lee, good to see you. Welcome.
Thank you very much
for coming in to see us. We've got Kelvin MacKenzie in the house. He's going to be talking to me in a moment about this incredible result overnight, in which basically the Labour government were knocked into third place by the Greens and by Reform. We'll be talking to Sarah Poacher from Reform coming up a little bit later. We won't be talking to Hannah Spencer, who is the most annoying woman I think I've met today. And we'll talk more about her and more about some of the other stories knocking around as well, coming up after the news with Edward Hughes.
Good morning, all. Here's the news with me, Edward Hughes. In a major political shock, the Green Party has won the Gorton and Denton by-election, their first ever Westminster seat victory. Hannah Spencer took the Manchester seat with around 41% of the vote, pushing Reform UK into second and Labour into third, dealing a significant blow to Prime Minister Keir Starmer and highlighting fractures in traditional party support. Party leader Zach Polanski has said that he will treat himself to a new hammer to brush his teeth with. Elsewhere, Soham murderer Ian Huntley was seriously injured in a prison attack and is fighting for his life. Such a terrible shame. Concerns are growing over youth unemployment, with the number of young people not in education, employment or training nearing 1 million, prompting calls for urgent action. This is the big story bubbling, folks. We should be worried. A damning report highlights failures in NHS maternity care, including racism, bullying, and covered-up errors. Other stories include the Ministry of Defence reviewing possible Jeffrey Epstein, links to RAF bases, and activists planning protests over the environmental and social impacts of expanding AI data centres. That's the key UK news roundup for today. Remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
Yeah, I was wondering what you made of...
That's Edward Hughes with the news. We're back on air, Lee, by the way. We are back on air, Lee. You know that, don't you? Thanks very much indeed. Just letting you know, he's never worked in broadcasting before. Don't worry about it. You carry on, mate.
He's not in broadcasting now.
No, you carry on. Anyway, listen, Lee Harris, thank you very much indeed. Let's have a look at Intel Lady, because Intel Lady, one of the great impressionists, does a fantastic impression of Hannah Spencer. Check this out.
I don't know about you, but I absolutely hate party political broadcasts. So instead of doing that, I thought instead I would just have a little bit of an informal chit chat with you about this and that, because I have spent all day working. I have been plumbering and plastering, and then I went to walk my greyhounds for like an hour, so I'm absolutely knackered. But I wanted to come over and hang out with my mate Jade, who lives in a typical working class person's house in the Gorton and Denton area, because this is an area that I feel really connected to, and I am determined to represent the people of Gorton and Denton for the Green Party. So that is really important. I need the people of Gorton and Denton to understand, that all of your problems are caused by billionaires not paying their fair share of taxes. And that is something that we are determined to change in the Green Party. So, for example, everyone has to pay their fair share. If you have a property portfolio of, say, 1.2 million, you need to make sure that you are paying the right amount of tax, because that is only fair, and you would be like a total hypocrite if you did not do that. So that is really important. We also care very much about children's safety. So we are going to be sending teams into schools, mainly primary schools, and teaching children how to shoot up safely, because that is very, very important to all of us here at the Green Party. Now, my mate Jade, has gone off to make me a brew, because as well as working really, really hard all day, I am also...
That is Jen, the Intel Lady. She's brilliant. She was on Plank of the Week last week, in fact, and she does a fantastic Angela Rayner. That's now, the new one is going to be Hannah Spencer. She's going to be doing that a lot, I suspect, because Hannah Spencer is the sort of woman, when she goes to Westminster, is going to wreak absolute havoc, I reckon, down there, because she's one of these women who's, she's not a plumber, she's not whatever it is she says she is. She's quite well off. She's quite sort of well-to-do. And I just think it's going to be absolutely mind-blowing for old Starmer and his...
But what, in her victory address, she said, I'm basically here for people like me. Well, actually, she's a plumber. I don't know whether this is true all over the country. Right. Honestly. You want to be a lot friendlier with your plumber than you do your bank manager.
Very true.
Okay? Yeah. Because honestly, things are going wrong all the time. At our place, I sometimes wonder whether my missus is having an affair. Right? I wouldn't blame her, by the way, but
no, I wouldn't either.
With the plumber, because he spends so much time around here, around our place. So I thought that was strange. She also owns, I'm massively in favour of this, $1.25 million quid's worth of housing. Right. Fantastic.
It's slightly against their own sort of
no, but if she's in favour of that, then we're in favour. But the truth about the matter, the reason why they won, is they focused exclusively on their issues of Gaza. Yeah. And actually, none of the issues of let's be honest about it, Gorton and Denton, good friend of mine, lived there for many years, is honestly in a terrible state.
Is it? Yeah.
So you never focused on what was happening in your backyard, but because you were Muslim, you focused on what was happening 3,000 miles away. Okay? On that basis, we must look upon the Muslim population of our country. Are there issues? Do they not believe that their issues are UK issues? They are issues based on the Middle East. Yeah. That is enormously worrying to me.
It is enormously worrying for the country.
There won't be 1,000,001 Gortons, okay? There won't be others with 40 or... Right, so people were saying it's a 30% Muslim. Yeah. Actually, people I know were saying Actually, that was yesterday.
Yeah.
It would probably be nearer 40 or perhaps even 45.
And also maybe certain wards would be more like 75%.
Correct.
And that's the difference, because you've got, like they said, it was two, they described it as kind of two separate communities, but it turns out to be even more complex than that. There's kind of two communities inside of one community, if you know what I mean. And because in places like Birmingham, we know, places like London,
well, Birmingham is 52%.
Parts of Manchester. Yeah, but again, what the real figure is actually a lot higher. And so we've effectively, as British people, lost control of those parts of the country, haven't we?
I totally agree. They have a different... They view their culture as different.
Right. Because their culture in these places is more like it would be if they were in Pakistan than if they were in Bristol.
Right. So it happened in the voting.
Yeah.
It happened in the voting booths. Yeah. So this democracy group, who we should be very grateful for that they're looking out for us, said that there were 62 occasions where couples were going behind the curtain.
Right.
Okay.
Which is illegal, isn't it?
Well, there's a whole load of people sitting there. Right. When you go in to vote, as everybody knows, there's a whole load of people you have to register with before you go in there.
Right.
Why didn't they say you can't go in there?
Well, presumably.
And you know what? Nobody says that the couples that are going behind the booth are saying they are Muslim or they are, perhaps we need to know. How is it that those votes were allowed to stand? Yeah. It doesn't matter. But what about this? Labour activist last night, been to Gorton and Denton in the day, this was yesterday, told me he knocked on one door, a Muslim lady answered the door, and he said, can I look forward to, I'm a Labour activist, can I look forward to your vote? Right. What did she say?
Ask my husband.
She said, when my husband gets home, he will tell me which way we're voting.
Yeah.
Right? Straight off the bat. Right?
Well, they've got imams in these communities who tell people which way to vote. Basically, you go to the local mosque and you go, which way are we voting this week, sir? And they tells you, and away you go. So it's like a massive kind of, block vote. There's no individuality going on. You can't sit there and go, actually, I've run a corner shop. I quite fancy voting for the Tories. No, sorry, you're not allowed to do that. It's because it's a heritage situation from the subcontinent, if you like, of India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. That's how they do politics, and they do it now in Birmingham, and they do it in Manchester, and they do it in London.
And they definitely did it in Gorton and Denton.
But answer me this: if, as you say, it was pointed out that this activity was happening behind the curtain, how is it not possible that that's been reported somehow, and you declare the whole thing null and void?
There's a group, we should be very grateful to them, an activist democracy group. Yeah. And I first heard it last night, I regret to say this, on Newsnight.
Oh, God.
Actually, funnily enough.
Although people say people are watching it again now because it's got a bit better.
Okay, I watch it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Right.
And I haven't watched Newsnight in 30 or 40 years.
It's usually past my bedtime, so I don't see it.
Yeah, correct.
Anymore.
Well, yes, you're flogging. You are part of... I'm surprised you're not voting Green because she's talking about hard-working people.
Yeah.
Does she actually know people?
No.
People by and large, I know, are not working hard. They are trying to, A, work less. Right? B, enjoy themselves more. But on working less, you earn less money. And if you earn less money, you can't go to so many restaurants, you can't go to so many movie houses, you can't go to so many holidays. Why don't you try working harder?
Right.
And that way, you will have more money.
Right. I'll tell you what'll shock you, right? I was out with a dog on couple of weekends ago. Yeah. There's a little cafe down by the beach. Managed to get the dog to the beach, got him in the car. Went into this very nice little cafe, privately run. I take my hat off to them because I try and support them. I had...
I would think that actually you support them with rather than a large number of bacon sandwiches.
Well, I had
you used to.
Well, wait till you hear this, right? Yeah. Bacon and egg on a roll, bacon and egg bap, vegan sausage and egg.
That will be good for you.
The person I was with.
Apparently you get less cancer on vegan.
A little bowl of bacon for the dog, right? A cup of tea and a cappuccino. How much do you think for that?
Over here, you probably have to take it in London, in Vauxhall. This was now.
No, this was in Sussex.
But if it was in Vauxhall, it would you probably need a mortgage. I would say, listen to that, about somewhere about 16 quid, 18
£20.50.
Oh, really?
£20.50. I nearly fell off the chair. I was like, sorry. Are you joking? £20.50 for 2 effectively bacon rolls and a cup of tea and a cup of coffee. I was astonished. But, you know, no doubt they'll say, well, we have to charge that because our rates have gone up and, you know, we're paying more tax and we've got a couple of kids working, so we've got to pay them.
Although they might
insurance.
say we've got a wealthy broadcaster coming in.
I mean, there's a special menu for me only. But no, but I was really quite shocked at how much. Another place I went to down there, the guys opened a new pub, so we thought we'll give it a try.
Yeah.
And went down there and I wasn't really even that hungry, so I think I had a Scotch egg. She had a sort of some kind of something in chips and a couple of drinks, £75. I'm going, we're not coming back here. You know, it's unbelievable what people are charging. You know, and I do pay a lot of money sometimes when I'm out for dinner in London. But this is in the Shires. This is supposed to. I mean, that's what's going on.
Yeah, no, it's very expensive. So this is one of the reasons why people feel irritated about life, that things appear to be expensive on the outside.
Yeah.
But the truth about the matter is, I know it sounds terrible. We probably have to work longer hours to earn the money. Or we have to be cleverer, but we have to do something. You can't expect. So the first thing that they say to everybody says this: give the billionaires a good whacking.
Right.
Actually, they're not here anyway.
Right. Also, people who are making money are paying plenty of tax. Thanks very much indeed.
They're paying plenty of tax. Anyway, they've all left. Right, they've left. So what they're going to come after is that they want to make the middle classes, which I suspect is this audience.
Yes.
Your audience. Are probably the very people that they want to attack.
Yeah.
So people who've done slightly better than average, not very much better than average, they want to come after them. But let's talk about Starmer.
Yeah.
Right, what position how do you fancy Starmer?
I mean, I can't see how he's even there now. Even before this election, I thought he'd have been gone. But now, I mean, he's literally come in third place. He's got no hope of doing anything at all. We've got a clip from Lucy Powell that we showed earlier, who's trying to sort of put the best face on it that she can. But it's very obvious that Keir Starmer is not working for the working people of this country. They don't trust him. They don't think he's doing anything that's any good, worth a fag end. And he might as well just walk away, because what's the point of him? Exactly. Now he's got no authority. He's got no power.
Okay, so he has a problem.
Yeah.
So, no, Labour has a problem.
Yeah.
Let's forget about Starmer.
Yeah.
Because if Starmer got the push tomorrow, okay, which is as likely as not.
Right.
So who takes over, right? And honestly, I would say it's a racing certainty now that Miliband does. I would say
so.
You can't have somebody involved in a tax row. Wes Streeting, for some reason, has blown up.
Yeah,
he's blown up, and he now recognises it.
Yeah.
So there's no Rayner, there's no Streeting, there's no... Who would you go? Apparently there's some suggestion that Healy might pop up.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, he would bring a tear to a glass eye.
I mean, this is one of the most boring people I've ever seen.
Fine,
right?
Okay, but so was Clement Attlee, and he did all right.
I'm not that old.
Oh?
I don't remember him, sorry.
Me and Clem, we go back a long way, you know. Anyway, so I would say that there will be change.
Yeah.
And that, so he's got possibly until May, but not certain.
I mean, I think the thing is as well that basically all Labour MPs now, backbench, rebellion, whatever, are all now decided that it doesn't matter what they do, they're not going to get re-elected.
Correct.
So they're not even hoping that they can bring somebody in that can save their job, because they know they're done.
Okay, but this is a danger for you, me, I think your audience generally. They're going to come after us, right? So all kinds of rather vile wealth-related taxes are likely to be suggested, because they'll say, we're done for. But what we're going to do is we're going to blow up the bridge once we've crossed it. And then say to... Now, I think it's a reasonable result for reform.
I think so. I think they'll be quite happy with it.
Yes, I was with Farage the other night, and it was clear to me that he actually already knew what the outcome was.
Yeah.
Because if you know Farage is actually almost like a street trader.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
He's always selling.
Yeah.
Always selling. He's got a cheerful countenance. Unless, of course, you cross it, in which case that's over.
Yeah.
And for the first time, when they asked him how I asked him how I thought it was going, how he thought it was going. He was basically, so it's going to be close, rather than saying we're going to win by a mile.
Well, David Bull was saying it last night, it was close. It turns out it wasn't that close. They actually got 40% more votes for the Green Party, 14,000 something, nearly 15,000 compared to 10,000. But let me ask you to wait for 1 second, because we've got Ralph Schoellhammer waiting very patiently and very politely, unlike most of us would be if we were waiting for as long as he's been waiting. Ralph, a very good morning to you.
Well, good morning, Mike. I was just worried that you had forgotten about me, but I'm glad that I was
No, we hadn't. It's just very difficult to stop this man from talking next to me. I mean, he's got some very interesting things to say, to be fair. Listen, let me ask you, because we're seeing, I mean, it's been described here as the balkanisation of the voting public in the UK, where we've got huge swathes of the country, which are not really British anymore. The Green Party have won this election. Basically nothing to do with local policies, not even British policies, everything to do with the policies in Gaza and Palestine.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a worrisome trend in the UK, but in continental Europe as well, right? But we see, I mean, this is, if you want, the curse of the multicultural society. It's not becoming one cohesive society, it's becoming parallel societies, and then you need an ever more powerful state who can then administrate between all these different competing groups. We are becoming tribal societies, and this is the biggest problem we have. And this is the one thing I feel, right, that we gradually, even within the establishment, start to recognize and start to admit. I'm very heartened, I have to admit, but what we see happening in the UK, whether you support reform, whether you support restore, I think there is something afoot, which means that even now Nigel Farage is being pushed into the right direction. Because my sense, and Mike, I said this on your show many times, I still kind of think that he probably doesn't have what it takes. But with Rupert Lowe kind of pushing him in the right direction, he probably will not have a choice. There's a famous saying, I think it was Margaret Thatcher, who said, you don't wait for the right people to do the right thing. You wait, or you create the circumstances under which even the wrong people have to do the right thing. And, if Nigel Farage finds himself in that position, all the more power to him.
Yeah, the problem, of course, is that we may not have to have an election for quite a long time. And by the time we do have an election, how much more of this balkanisation will have happened?
Well, I mean, I found it funny. About 2 or 3 years ago, right, everybody told me, oh my God, there can never be political change in the UK because of the electoral system, the majority vote. It's impossible. And now, actually, what we see, if you look at the polls, it's happening much quicker than, for example, in Germany and other places where you have a different form of electoral system. The beauty about the British system is it is very stable for a very long time. But once the people truly have had enough, or if they truly are looking for an alternative, change can happen very, very quickly. Now, I agree with you. It's 5 to 12, but luckily enough, it's not 5 past 12. But I think that the change is probably happening much faster than we expect. If there could be a general, I mean, again, I'm just a foreigner, but if there could be a general election in the UK tomorrow, I'd be very happy about it. But on the other hand, even these new political movements, they need time to prepare. Think about Donald Trump. In a certain sense, him being out of office between 2020 and 2024 gave him precisely the kind of time he needed to really put together both an agenda, but also an action plan to execute it. So if reform and also restore in whatever way, shape or form, prepare them to actually execute in detail what they plan to do, I think that might not even be the worst thing. So good for them if they come into power soon, but I would still argue if it would be tomorrow, it might be too early.
Yeah, very possibly so. I mean, Kelvin, do you think that this is the beginning, if you like, of the end for the sort of the two-party system? And we are now.
The thing we don't talk about, of course, is the vote for the Conservative vote.
Yeah, well, I was about to mention
the Conservative vote was 2%. Well, it actually ended up 706 votes. They lost their deposit. All right, you're never going to do very well in a place like Gorton and Denton. But the reality of it all is I think the Conservatives must be thinking to themselves, what on earth is likely to happen to us in every single election before we go? What is going to happen to them in the May 6th elections? I think it's a disaster for them. So we are seeing, it's the last two by-elections have meant that the biggest parties, Conservative and Labour, haven't finished second. That has never happened before. So we are seeing people, to your point really, Ralph, that I think we're seeing people actually making decisions of a different kind to the one they would have made 20 years ago.
Well, I think there's a divide that didn't exist to that extent in the past. I'll give you a concrete example from your cousins or your prodigal son across the Atlantic. When Donald Trump gave his State of the Union speech, right, there was this one point where he said, he asked everybody, every member of Congress to stand up if they agree with the statement that the primary obligation of a state, of a government, is towards its own citizens and not towards illegal immigrants. And pretty much the entire Democrat caucus remained seated. And this is the big issue. The United Kingdom, has a beautiful saying, right? It's Her Majesty's loyal opposition. So the idea has always been, even in the two-party or three-party, if you include the Liberals, but the idea was always that different parties maybe suggest a different path, but they all work towards the same goal. What we have in Europe and in the UK, there are political parties where I would openly say they do not care about their country. They do not care about its people. They are only driven by this idea that we have so much historical guilt, and the only way to atone for this guilt is basically to commit civilizational and economic suicide in whatever way, shape, or form. I mean, a topic that Mike and I talked about many times. This is also, in my opinion, behind environmental policies. Right? The idea is not that the UK on its own can save the global climate. Everybody who can run, the basic algebra knows that that is impossible. But it is supposed to atone for the sins of the UK. Mass migration is supposed to atone for the sins of colonialism. So this is the difference. So there are parties in Germany, in Austria, and the UK, again, in your case, I think it's Restore and also Reform, that honestly believe that actually British civilization is worth preserving, that actually there is the world is a better place if the English stick around. And then there are other parties who believe the exact opposite. And I think this is the true divide that we have in Europe. It's between parties who say that actually our countries, our cultures, our civilizations should be preserved. And then there are parties which would argue it should be overcome, it should be abandoned, it should be replaced by something new, a hodgepodge, multicultural, whatever then it is. And I think this is ultimately the choice that the British people and the rest of the West has to make.
Yeah.
In the rest of Europe, do you see the Greens view, which effectively, and this kind of gets lost in the wash. I mean, we should literally, on this program, we should read out their policies. I mean, these are a collection of nut bombs, right?
Yeah.
Who for some reason have actually captured thanks to Gaza, have captured the Muslim vote. That the open borders is part. Are there other parties in Europe which are doing well, which have the Greens view basically of having an open border, just allowing anybody to come in at any time? Are there other parties like that?
Well, yes. I mean, it's the same with the Tories in the UK. I mean, the so-called quote-unquote conservative parties in Europe, with a few exceptions, are no longer truly conservative. I mean, you had the Boris wave, and we can say in Europe we had the Merkel wave, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And these are supposed conservatives. But I give you another example, just to slightly switch the topic, but only for a second. I mean, there was a vote in the European Parliament that said that also, so it's not just biological women that can get pregnant. So basically saying that a guy with a penis can also get pregnant. And pretty much all the conservative parties voted for that proposal. I mean, if we can even not agree on the distinction between man and woman as conservatives, then they are no longer conservative parties. I'm very sorry. Just to put the name conservative to your party, that's not enough.
Yeah.
And so the so-called, and even if you look truly at the positions of the quote-unquote far right, extreme right, at the end of the day, the positions they hold were completely commonplace and held by conservative parties in the 1980s.
Yeah. I was listening to. Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, that's what was the problem for the Conservative Party in this country, was they suddenly got filled with people who thought, like Penny Mordaunt, for example, when she got up and was pretending she wanted to be leader of the Conservative Party, trans women are women. That was her line. She wanted to sort of join the forces of the dark side, if you like, of the people who believe things which are patently untrue, right? And so, but also, you've got things like, I was listening to Times Radio on the way in this morning, and they referred to the Reform Green sort of axis as the far right and the far left. Well, Reform are not far right. I mean, you can call them that, but that's not true.
Well, there's a whole load of parties have started to the right of reform since then. And in fact, Farage spends a lot of his time actually trying to be what I would describe as old-style conservatives.
Yes.
I would say kind of Thatcherite, but kind of trying to polish himself up a bit. if right, so with the Greens right now, there's not going to be many Gorton and Dentons, only because there aren't a whole load of Muslims who are prepared to take Gaza as a more important aspect of their life than their own high street, which is an absolute disgrace in itself and should destine those people to worry about whether we should have them in our country and wondering whether they are whether acting in our own best interests actually, and whether they should be British citizens. But putting all that to one side, right, the Greens will kill Labour stone dead because they're going to chop 10, 15% off them.
Yeah.
Have you seen any of this happen in Europe where there has been a more left than the traditional Labour Party then go and kill that Labour Party stone dead within various European countries?
You see it a little bit in urban areas, and I think that's probably similar to the UK as well. I mean, the cities have gotten crazy. I mean, I think this is the only thing that one has to recognize, and particularly that's a topic probably for another day, Mike, because we would have to get deeper into it. And particularly unmarried single women under 30 that go to university in the cities have gone completely crazy. I mean, if you look at the most insane policy proposal, that's the demographic that tends to support them. And I think
so. Say that again, Ralph. Say that again. Who are the biggest bum pots? Women under 30 who
women,
are single.
Unmarried women. We are single, and it's true. I mean, there's a lot of evidence out there, and I don't want to attack your feet. There are exceptions. Don't get me wrong. This is not supposed to say it's all of them. But for example, in Berlin, right, the far left party, which is the most pro open borders party, got most votes from that demographic. So there's always this absurd connect in the sense that the very group of people that most likely will be victims of migrant crimes tend very often also to vote for more open borders. I mean, I looked at the rape statistics in the UK. I mean, it's no longer hyperbolic to say that there is a rape epidemic in the UK. You just have to look at the numbers. But the key problem remains, and which is that we have created conditions under which patriotism has become a source of shame and not a source of pride. The people of the West have been brainwashed, I would say at least for the last 60 years, into a sense of permanent guilt, of a tyranny of guilt, I would almost say, of constantly feeling bad for their own history, their own traditions, their own people. And this is now slowly starting to change. And my point is, even a Margaret Thatcher would not be enough. This is not about economic liberalism or, about free markets. This is about a sense that we are in an existential struggle, whether or not our civilization, our culture, and yes, I'm saying it, our ethnicity is going to survive, the next 20, 30, 40 years. And I think these are justified questions. We might come, out on different ends when it comes to the answer, but these questions are increasingly crucial and important.
Yeah, they really are. Absolutely right. Pooch, have we got that little bumper that you did? Did you say you made a little bumper for Ralph?
It's not a bumper, it's this. Hold on one second.
Yeah, I'll have a look at this.
Hold on 1 second. Go to Ralph. 1 second.
Yes.
There you go, Ralph.
Here we are. I'll be back. There you go.
I'll be back.
We always get Ralph to say, I'll be back. Thank you very much indeed. Ralph, great to see you. Ralph Schoellhammer.
Thank you. Good seeing you, Mike. Take care.
Thank you very much indeed. Great man. Talks an awful lot of sense. And isn't it true? You've said this. Where are we going to be in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? What are your grandchildren going to be looking at?
I'm younger than you.
Yes,
right?
of course.
And
mentally, perhaps.
Yeah, and I'm younger than you. So, but even I'm worried about, well, what does it look like?
Yeah.
Not for me. And actually, I'm not even worried about my kids.
Yeah.
Right? I'm worried about their children.
Yeah.
And what does it look like? Now, they are almost certainly, all my kids, all my grandkids and everything, will probably all be voting Green. Yeah. And not until you have a stake in society do you suddenly realise that the people want to take from you those things that you've worked hard for, while they're claiming that they're working hard. So that lady is a total fraud.
Hannah Spencer.
But however, it's a good story to tell. She says, I'm a working woman. Yeah. I'm this, I'm that. And
she's caring as well, don't forget. I mean, she cares an awful lot about everybody else.
Yeah, she cares a lot about, which is total fraud. Because when you know people, you don't care for them, do you? No. In fact, you're trying to avoid them.
Exactly right. I mean, I believe in the old-fashioned system of, you pay tax, you look after the people who are vulnerable, You let the government, use your money to make other people's lives happier and better, as long as that's what they need. But you don't want to become, sort of like the Good Samaritan. I'm not interested. Sorry.
Okay, fine. Well, here's the rub. So the latest rub on this is that if you, in fact, it's that story in the Times,
yes,
saying that if you allow your children to stay at home, and actually you're not incentivizing them to get out, i.e. start charging them a massive amount of rent, then all you're doing is you're sentencing them to actually not believe that money is important, and therefore going to work is not important.
Exactly.
So what we should do, so I remember I got I'm staying at home.
Right.
I'm as thick as plaster at school, and the rest of them. I'm kind of 17, 18. My father caught me on the phone to a bookmaker, right, trying to get a result. Okay, I was just trying to get the result of a race.
Right.
I was not placing a bet. We'd already had that conversation, right? I was not placing a bet. A huge blow up happens, right? I leave home, right? I grab my stuff, I'm off, right? And I go round to a friend of mine's who has a bed sit in a place called Lone Pit Vale, which runs between Lewisham and Blackheath.
Right.
He didn't have a spare bed, therefore I have to lie on the floor.
Right.
The floor was a stone floor.
Yeah.
I went to sleep that night. I was 18 years old. I woke up in the morning. I was 48. I am never going to sleep on a stone floor again.
Yeah.
I was back round at the house. Very sorry about that, Dad. I'm so sorry, and all the rest of it. The truth about the matter is, if you stay at home and you don't go out and rent, then you are saving yourself the most enormous amounts of money. But the parents are not helping your kids.
But in my day, when I was that age, I went to university when I was 18, just about. I couldn't wait to get out of the house. I couldn't wait to move away. And my sister was the same. We both it was sort of start of the 80s. It was very much the whole big bank. She got a job in the city. I started working in journalism, started doing some shifts in Fleet Street, blah, blah, blah. And, I was delighted. It didn't occur to you that you didn't make enough money. I had a job in out by Heston, out by Heathrow Airport, working for this little Asian magazine, and I used to take a taxi into to Fleet Street to do shifts at the Sun, which would more or less be eaten up by the amount of money. I think I got 45 quid for a 5-hour shift, which was quite good money actually in those days. And I think the taxi cost me about 35 quid.
Was the taxi pulled by a horse, was it? 45 quid?
All the way from Heathrow I'm talking about.
Yeah,
it was quite a long way. But then, again in those days, and this I'm not giving anything, I don't think it come after you this retrospectively for tax, but there was a guy called a bloke called Barry Mattee, who you might remember.
I do remember.
Right? Who came round and he used to just hand out, this was in the old Bouverie Street office, which was actually, where Kelvin was the editor, and they'd come around with these forms. I was kind of, what's this? And Nick Ferrari was there. He said, "Oh, that's your expenses." And I said, "Well, I haven't got any expenses." I said, "I haven't done anything. I haven't been anywhere." And he said, "Well, what stories have you written?" And I said, "Well, I wrote a piece about the curse of Tutankhamun, right? The curse of Tutankhamun, which was some travelling play where everywhere they'd gone, something bad had happened. The set had fallen down.
That's
all of that.
Good story.
Great page leading the Sun, right?" He said, "Right, taxi to British Museum, £15. Lunch with curator of British Museum, £20. Taxi back, 15. So I'm putting in 50 quid's worth of expenses, right? Which was brilliant, because that was more than they were actually paying me for the shift. And I suddenly went, this is fantastic, and what a great introduction to the working world.
Foreign editor of the Daily Express, right, puts in, he'd been to Egypt on some story. I don't know whether it's Tutankhamun related. He'd been to Egypt and had to travel out into the desert.
Oh, yeah.
And he put in expenses.
This is the Vincent Mulcrone story, isn't it? Yeah.
He puts in expenses to buying camel, right? 287 quid, right? Puts it in. Managing editor, sit there. Managing editor, sit, calls him in. Look, if you bought the camel, right, we've got to have the other side of the balance sheet. So to selling camel, you've got to put the price in. So if you put in another one, we'll just pretend that it did all happen.
Right.
So he goes away. Anyway.
I actually told, funnily enough, this story this week.
10 minutes later, 2 minutes later, he gets another expensive chit, and it says, to burying camel, £48.50.
Exactly right.
Right.
Yeah.
Which actually, in Fleet Street, the whole thing was a complete racket and was considered a way. Journalists were poorly paid, as they are today, by the way, poorly paid, and actually
it was a perk of the job, wasn't it?
Yes, it was a perk of the job.
Yeah, I mean,
and actually, some very clever people made some quite good money.
They did. I mean, I know people like photographers, for example, particularly the royal guys who used to go around the world following Diana or whatever it was. And you'd go around their house and you go, see that conservatory? I said, yeah. That was the Indian trip. Because they made so much money, they put an extra bit on the house. Anyway,
these are hard-working journalists.
Very much
They're all
so.
voting Green now.
Yeah, they are. And all their kids are anyway. And all their kids are not working hard because they've had the life of Riley. That's the thing. Did we do the news?
No, I've got some comments.
We've got some comments as well. All right, let's do a bit of that. My daughter started working at McDonald's a few weeks ago. Not all kids are entitled idiots. She's loving it and loving the wages. Well, good. That's South London Sarah. I think you've got to do that. I used to charge my son 25% of wherever he earned. At first, he didn't want to, but after showing him how much it would cost to live alone, he was quite happy to pay it. Mike, $21.99. My wife is Polish and a school teacher here in the UK. We are now considering moving to Poland. My children have dual nationality. We need to get out of this mad country. The UK is doomed. I think we'll see a lot of this. I think we'll see a lot more people getting out.
You've already seen it.
Mike, you're as bad as Starmer with his expenses. Well, I mean, you know, I
I'll
don't
tell
have
you what,
any anymore.
your clothes haven't been bought by Lord Alley.
Lord Alley has not bought me any
although
clothes.
they look as though they ought to be.
I also paid for my own glasses as well. I did get some. I get some free ties. Yeah, I got a nice tie with some herons. 2 ties came in this week from people who sent them in to me with herons on.
Oh, that's very nice.
Which is nice of them. Yeah,
that's a good thing. Look, let's just talk about the yes, have the news.
Well, should we do the news? Yeah, let's do the news.
And then we'll talk about the death of Starmer.
The death of Starmer, which cannot come soon enough, as far as I'm concerned. Metaphorically speaking, of course. 11 minutes past 8.
Good morning, all. Here's the news with me, Edward Hughes. In a major political shock, the Green Party has won the Gorton and Denton by-election, their first ever Westminster seat victory. Hannah Spencer took the Manchester seat with around 41% of the vote, pushing Reform UK into second and Labour into third, dealing a significant blow to Prime Minister Keir Starmer and highlighting fractures in traditional party support. Party leader Zach Polanski has said that he will treat himself to a new hammer to brush his teeth with. Elsewhere, Soham murderer Ian Huntley was seriously injured in a prison attack and is fighting for his life. Such a terrible shame. Concerns are growing over youth unemployment, with the number of young people not in education, employment or training nearing 1 million, prompting calls for urgent action. This is the big story bubbling, folks. We should be worried. A damning report highlights failures in NHS maternity care, including racism, bullying, and covered-up errors. Other stories include the Ministry of Defence reviewing possible Jeffrey Epstein, links to RAF bases, and activists planning protests over the environmental and social impacts of expanding AI data centres. That's the key UK news roundup for today. Remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers?
Yeah. Thank you very much. That's Edward Hughes with the news. A couple of super chats have come in. Pooch, can we have those, perhaps? Here we go. One from Paul, who says, Muslims don't care about the green policies. They want a party that can elect them into power, then take over to enforce their own policies. Well, I think that's the trouble in some of these areas. This one from Hev Chip, everyone should pay the same percentage of tax. I don't disagree with that, actually. I don't mind that. Cindy says, I could talk to Kelvin for hours. I'm very happy to see him.
OK, if you'd like to give me a call later.
You're very welcome, Cindy. We'll give you his number privately, obviously. So let's have a quick look at this. This is just something different, because I know that we said we'll probably just be talking about the election, and we'll talk about Starmer in a second. But I've got to show you this, because our mutual friend Nick Ferrari, the master of breakfast TV and indeed radio on LBC, he had the homeless minister in yesterday.
Well, it must be getting a lot more work now that Labour have been in.
Yeah, absolutely right, because they've made so many people homeless. But just check this out. This is great.
What is the estimated number of homeless people in the country at the moment, Minister?
So if we measure the number of people who are presenting themselves to local authorities, then it's about 80,000, just under 80,000.
I mean, your number of 80,000, Minister, is in stark contrast to what shelters say. Do you want to revise that number?
So shelter say have a broader look. You can measure homelessness, as you were saying before, in different ways, because you can find people who are sofa surfing and other things who don't actually report themselves.
So what would that number get to then if we include the surfers, as it were?
I mean, you can give shelters number. I'm just giving the government's measure of how.
But what is the shelter number?
I don't know off the top of my head because.
Sorry. Just to clarify, you are the Minister for Homelessness, and you don't know how many people are homeless according to shelter.
Nick, you and I have this all the time where I understand why you challenge me on knowing the numbers, and I try to be across my brief, but I don't know the latest shelter figure off the top of my head.
Why not?
Oh no, that is
Isn't that brilliant?
No,
So good.
That is why he is the number one rated broadcaster, a commercial broadcaster in the country for many decades now. A very funny guy. The other, he rang me yesterday to say that he had patched it up for the first time in 35 years with Janet Porter. Anyway. So
you and she had a few run-ins.
We did have a few run-ins.
At live TV.
So the only thing she ever said to me, you're going to have to bleep this, Pooch, do you mind?
No, we don't.
Okay, can you do it?
You can say it.
All right. She said, so we worked together on a cable TV station called Live TV, bouncing Weather Dwarf, weather in Norwegian. It was fantastic. And if it existed today.
Remember Elbow?
Elbow.
Who was a Spanish matador.
Spanish archer. Right, got the elbow. There was nothing. Everything worked. There was nothing was a failure, except we were losing 180 grand a month. Anyway, anyway, she and I didn't get on very well because I liked all those ideas and she wanted to do news.
Also, she thought she was no end of a sort of a TV genius, didn't she?
Yeah.
Sort of,
And anyway, the only thing she ever said to me, we worked together for 4 months. So it was a difficult 4 months. The only time she spoke to me in 4 months, she said, I fucking hate you. So I got the distinct impression that this was not going to work.
I also remember there was we used to do this thing every year, the Press Gazette Press Awards, and it was a big event. It was always at the Hilton or something in Park Lane, black tie. There was always some kind of problem. That was where Piers Morgan and Jeremy Clarkson had their punch up. Don Mackay once headbutted somebody from Microsoft who had come in to sort of, to sponsor the whole thing, the blood running down his shirt, But I remember one year you got up to give a prize out to the Independent, because she was the editor of the Independent at the time. And Kelvin goes up on the stage and she's got a table over in the corner there with all of her little apparatchiks, And he gets up and he goes, I just want to say that I've got to give the prize to Janet Street Porter. And she got up and walked out. She walked out and didn't go up and get the prize because she was that sort of up herself. Ridiculous woman.
Well, anyway, so Nick Ferrari was programme director at Live TV, and she was, I don't know what she was, but because she kind of came in late, left early. Right. And anyway, they hadn't spoken for 35 years. They now share a similar studio for television purposes, for ITV, because ITV are basically going bust. So
that's right, because he goes in and does This Morning.
He does. He does This Morning. She does Loose Women, and she came up to Nick and said, I hear you've got married, which was true. Yeah. She said, I thought, well, I'm not going to have him trump me. I'm going to get married myself. And she has married some poor chap. Right. She's 79.
God help him.
And imagine what the old bedroom talk's like. I suppose there's no chance. I suppose
he chops with a leg over it.
I suppose there's no chance of a quick one, is there? And
that's quite terrifying, isn't it? Absolutely awful. Blimey.
So she said to me once, she said, I came home the other day and there was a strange bloke lying on my sofa. I said, really? I said, well, what did you do about that then, Janet? She said, well, I gave him one and then threw him out. I thought, how very upmarket.
Yes. She sort of thought of herself as no end of a feminist as well, didn't she? Because she was sort of wanted to act like she was one of the lads. She very much It was anyway, her voice actually kept her in work, because had she talked like this, she'd probably be done for. No, exactly.
But if she talked like that, everybody could remember her.
It's amazing that she's still working, really.
Yeah, there we are. That bloke, Kelvin MacKenzie, started dancing with topless darts.
Topless darts, remember that?
Absolute fantastic. And I am seriously thinking of starting a similar station where everything is completely disgraceful.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get, and what we're going to do is we're going to get Janet to offer sex tips.
Brilliant. I mean, listen, there's a market. I mean, there's all sorts of TV stations.
Yeah.
Why not? I mean, why not do it?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I don't know whether have you watched the Mike Graham show?
I have. Yeah.
Very funny.
Yeah, it is very funny.
It's not supposed to be, but it's bloody
not.
funny.
No, it's inadvertently funny.
Right. So what are we going to do?
We're going to talk about Keir Starmer, aren't we?
Yeah.
And what is his future? Because you've got to be sitting in Downing Street this morning. He's lost his chief of staff, right? So he's kind of rudderless. He's got nobody to talk to because he doesn't really have any advisors that he can trust. McSweeney's gone. Mandelson's gone. Who the hell is he going to take sort of any advice from?
Well, look, at the end of the day, Labour are done for.
Yeah.
Okay? They're done for because reform represents some. Despite what Ralph said, reform represents for our country probably the best Conservative option.
Yes.
Because the Conservative Party don't know who they are. So the left have completely imploded. So the question for Labour is, do they replace Starmer?
Yeah.
And the answer, I think, must be yes.
It has to be, surely.
Yeah, right. So come May the 6th,
Yeah.
this vote is going to trigger off more people saying, I tell you what, I want to kick this guy out.
Yeah.
The question then comes down to, what difference does it make?
Yeah.
And is the country governable in the old sense of it? Does it? You see, if they can't, with a majority of, 174 or something, if they can't run the country in a secure and balanced way, right? Who can run the country in a secure and balanced way? That's what I...
Not only is that an interesting question, but look, think of the number of times in the, how many months have they been in? 20 months, I suppose, or so? How many resets have they done? They must have done about 10, right? Where they've come back from the holidays, or they come back from Christmas, or they've come out of the summer and they've lost another by-election and they go, right, we're going to reset. And, they completely revisit all sorts of policies that they said they were going to do and now they're not doing. Rachel Reeves, again, a complete and utter, liability.
Have you noticed how quiet Rachel Reeves has been over the last... of all the
names...
names...
Did you see she told Kemi Badenoch to F off the other day in Prime Minister's Questions? She actually mouthed the words F off.
Did she?
Yeah, because she called her, she said where she works at the Bank of England, Kemi said, oh yeah, Rachel, when of course she was working at the Bank of England in customer complaints. And she didn't like it. And
because actually that wasn't accurate, was it? It was her previous job.
Yes.
You F off.
It was the Halifax.
The one thing we can be sure of, and I think your viewers will be delighted with this, is the one person never ever mentioned to be the next Prime Minister.
Yeah.
So she also knows she is tied at the hip with Starmer. So she goes.
Yeah.
So directly Starmer goes, she goes. Now so you lose the Prime Minister and the Chancellor. That is quite a big thing to happen in terms of stability for the currency and more importantly for people like your viewers, interest rates. Right. So we need somebody to run our country. If a majority of 174 won't do this, what will do this?
Well, this is why I've always said, and somehow in the back of my brain, I still don't know how it will happen, but it seems to me there will have to be another election before 2029, because they'll have lost the control of the country, they'll have lost the confidence of the country, the economy will probably be going down the gurgler faster than it is now, and the markets, I'm sure, will react badly, and there'll be pressure somehow, in the same way there was against Liz Truss, to just have an election.
Okay, but
that's what I think will happen.
Okay, but this majority is so large, Labour don't have to do it. Actually, Farage has always said that he thought that was the most likely option. Yeah. But I can't envisage that with 174. I just can't. What I could see is a series of prime ministers, a la the Conservatives.
Yes.
And remember, that is what Starmer claims he was elected on, that he was going to bring stability to our country. All he's bought is some collection of mad left-wing zealots who want to open up our borders to everybody in the whole world, right?
Well, you saw that on, Tuesday, 600 people came across the channel because it was that nice day, very, very pleasant, mild, you know, and that's going to be the pattern. So already we've got more people coming into the country this year since the same time last year.
So when you look at your weather app now, you're not looking to see what the weather is like in the sense of how is it going to affect me taking the family out for the day or going to Bournemouth for the day. You're looking at it and saying, actually, did you see we got 6 days of calm, no rain, that guarantees 600 a day, and we end up with literally, as we got today, with a supine government who actually hope that there is no editorial discussion on shows like this or in your print or on your news sites about how many people are likely to come in. They don't want the discussion. No. It's as though this doesn't happen. And yet we can tell by what I think was a really good vote for reform. And it does mean that any Conservatives, I'm not sure how many Conservatives there are in Gorton and Denton, but they all voted reform as well. So I am Farage, I'm rather buoyed up by this, but 3 years of this means 120,000, 130,000, if it's at the same number, right, of people actually we don't want here. We simply don't want them.
There's a story in the Mail today which tells you that successful asylum claims rose by more than a third last year, according to official figures from the Home Office. So up 35% on the previous 12 months. So they're actually not only allowing more people to come in, they're granting more people asylum. And they're all staying.
They're being granted asylum. How does it all work? Fantastic. We are the Labour Party. Come on down. They want to hurry people through the system. They don't want to say, but unless we stop them coming here, nothing is going to change.
No, of course not. More, in fact, are going to come because they can see what happens when they get here. They never leave.
Well, they get homes. They get some kind of benefit grants, and they actually have a similar life. So the other number I saw the other day was that there are now 76,000 people now living in rented accommodation, 76,000 migrants living in rented accommodation.
Having moved out of the hotels?
Right. What does having all this rental property soaked up by migrants mean? It only means one thing. That to rents.
And it also means fewer available flats and houses for people who need them.
Right. So it's supply and demand. There is plenty of demand. It's being given to, not completely, but it's given to. If you're in the landlord business, you say you have a house to rent or a flat to rent, you are killed in the rush. Killed in.
And also, you're giving it to people like, say, Serco, these companies that are running the whole shebang, if you like. And what you get is your council tax paid in advance. There's no issue with the rent not being paid because it's being paid by central government or local council. So you're not going to rent to a private individual who might not pay the rent or who might disappear or might nick the furniture. You're dealing with a kind of effectively a government department who are going to guarantee your income for the next 5 years.
Yes, so it's enormously attractive, but I'm not sure all landlords do want to go down that route. They want some flexibility. So look, there is no ifs and buts about it. We are done for as a country until let's deal with one issue at a time. We can't create wealth unless we work harder. There's no issue. And honestly,
and also in the private sector, right? Because all of these people who are being, Starmer was banging on again at PMQs. I mean, it's like he's delusional, saying that, we put more money in people's pockets, wages are up. Wages are not up. Wages are only up if you happen to be working in the public sector. If you're in the private sector, your wages are down.
Right, and what you can expect, I guarantee to you that if you're young and you want work going forward and you're enormously concerned about your future, there's only one thing you're going to do. You're going to go into state industries. You're going to become a teacher. You're going to become working, a fireman. You'll go
or the civil service or the council or something like that.
All that stuff will all be soaked up. So on that basis, that's when we have to scrap the pension aspect of it. They have pensions to which they are no longer entitled.
Yeah.
Those jobs are secure. The money is secure. That's good enough. Worry about the future, right?
Well, this is one of the things that we never hear about from the NHS, from the junior doctors to the nurses to everybody else. You know, they have such a massive pension contribution coming their way from where private companies wouldn't be able to go anywhere near. They never mention that. They talk about, we need inflation-busting pay rises. We need to get 56% of a pay increase since 4 years ago. They never say, by the way, I've got a 25% pension contribution going on, and I can retire when I'm about 50.
Exactly. And so everybody then stops work.
Yeah.
Everybody stops work. Then they start claiming we haven't got enough money to live on and all that kind of nonsense. So, look, we have significant problems in our country. And all that happened last night was, Gorton and Denton, was an indication of how we are separated from each other.
Yeah. Well, it's a two-tier society, isn't it? Minimum.
And so what is going to happen if there's around about 4 million Muslims in the UK, they seem to have children exponentially faster than the indigenous population. What does this look like in about, 10, 15 years' time? That looks like 8 or 10 million. So the number of Gorton and Dentons will increase. And therefore, that is sectarianism, and it also is a political power.
And what happens if they keep electing MPs who reflect what they believe?
Yes,
what happens then?
Whether they are Muslim themselves, or they are like the Greens who say, actually, that's our voter base, and therefore we are going to act in line with what these people want.
Well, if you're Zach Polanski this morning, you're going, well, that was a result, so we better do it again the next time, and we better repeat that every single time there's an election, and we'll get elected in a big way, massive way.
And so the other people that must be sitting there today wondering which way is up, apart from Labour, must be the Conservative Party. What does that stand for now?
Well, you may well ask. I mean, people keep saying things like, the thing is Kemi Badenoch's kind of reviving herself and reviving the party. Well, maybe, but that's because they were so far down the gurgler that, they literally thought they were dead in the water. I still think they are, and I don't know how they get out of that situation, because anybody sensible who believes that they are on the right-hand side, basically, of the political divide, is going to vote reform. Advance UK was a disaster. You see how many votes they got? No. They got less than the Monster Raving Loony Party. 154.
Actually, I rather like the name. What was the name of the Monster Raving Loony Party guy?
Screaming Lord Such.
No, this one.
Oh, you mean the guy who stood here?
Yeah.
Yeah, what was his name? Oh, is she? Okay, great. Right, we are running late. Yeah, we've got Sarah Pochin to talk to, so I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second. Sarah Pochin, who's, of course, Reform MP for Runcorn. Sarah, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike. Hi, how you doing?
You survived tonight. You're looking very happy. I mean, you came second. I think that's a pretty good result, isn't it?
Well, look, I'm not sure how I feel this morning. As somebody who obviously ran in a by-election only a few months ago, I feel desperately sorry for Matt Goodwin and the team. We ran a brilliant operation, and I know how Matt will be feeling this morning, because at 3 o'clock in the morning on my count, it was a question over whether we'd won or not. So I know that awful feeling when you've put your heart and soul into an election and lost it. But you know what? It was a great performance by Reform at the end of the day. We held up our sort of 29-30% of the vote. It was a big turnout, just like for my by-election. But of course, you do tend to get that in by-elections. Where everybody, all the parties throw everything at it. But no, I'm trying to be a bit jolly. I did a media interview this morning, and my husband told me I looked so fed up and sad that I had to make sure I looked happier on your show.
You look very happy. You look very fresh as well for somebody who's been up since until about 4 o'clock in the morning. I have been up
most of the night, yes.
I mean, that's extraordinary. But I mean, what do you make of this result? Because people are saying to me this morning that this is the beginning of the end of the two-party system as it was, with the Tories and Labour. Labour coming third in what would once have been one of their safest ever seats. The Tories, I know, wouldn't have much of a vote up there anyway, but literally 706 people lost their deposit. I mean, this is very bad news for the government, isn't it?
Well, look, our politics is completely fractured now. What an incredible time to be involved in British politics, because the traditional, two-party system with the sort of Lib Dems always tagging along in there somewhere has gone, hasn't it? It's completely gone. Look, in Runcorn and Helsby, it was about Reform and Labour. In Gorton and Denton, where I am this morning, it was really a three-horse race. The Greens, Reform and Labour. But the fact that the Tories didn't even make their deposit, yes, we all know this is not a Tory heartland, of course it isn't, but to not even get your deposit is quite shocking. And I'm sure there'll be some, like I say, shockwaves going through the Tory sort of head office this morning, because that is really dire. But not only that, look, Labour, absolutely, they're one of their heartland, sixth safest seat, was it? I think, Mike,
I
here.
think so, yeah.
Look, they've lost it to the Greens, they've lost it, whether we like to say it or not, I think, to a party that went unashamedly after the Muslim vote, and not only that, they bust in the middle class students, to run around the streets with their green t-shirts on and all the rest of it, and their nutcase policies. I'm sorry, it's only going to be, there's two sections that they appealed to very cleverly. They ran a good campaign, and look, they've won. Congratulations to Hannah. But the fact is, they went after two sets of votes. It was the Muslim vote, and they were putting out campaign stuff in Urdu, which I called out online, and then Zach Polanski effectively put two fingers up and then translated it into another Muslim language and put that out. But my view on that is that there should never ever be any campaign literature or videos going out in this country in any language other than English.
Yes. I couldn't agree more.
You speak English.
I couldn't agree more. The other thing that was interesting as well was Advance UK. They put up a candidate who did really, really badly. I mean, less votes than the monster raving loony party, which kind of tells you that all of the people who like this kind of splintering of the right and who think that, Advance UK and Restore Britain are going to be the answer because Reform's too middle of the road and all the rest of it. I mean, it would appear from this showing anyway that Advance UK doesn't have much support at all.
It's a classic example of the Westminster bubble, Mike. Down there in Westminster and on Twitter, people are obsessed with, Rupert Lowe and Restore Britain or Advance UK and Ben Habib, whatever it is, But the fact is, if you're representing constituencies like mine in Runcorn and Helsby, people haven't got a clue who these little parties are and who these names are. We talk about it endlessly because we live and breathe this stuff. But real life out there in the red wall seats, they're not interested in these fractions. They don't have a clue who these people are. But what they do know is that the main parties, as I said, British politics has been fractured. It's no longer just between Labour and Conservative. It's clear that if it was a general election that we just had, Reform would have taken 30% of that vote, and we could be looking at Nigel going into number 10 today. The real party of opposition is Reform. We are the only party now that is representing the working class people, and you might get Hannah, I don't even know what her second name is, but Hannah saying she's a plumber and she's a plasterer and all of this sort of stuff. Let's make no mistake, they cleverly ran a campaign that went after the Muslim vote. 30% Muslim vote in this constituency. We didn't have that in Runcorn and Helsby. And then they went after the students who run around and, of course, think it's wonderful to legalise all drugs, legalise prostitution, open our borders. And you know why? Because they haven't had to get out there, get a job and pay their taxes. So they have no idea what these crackpot policies will actually mean for them in real life.
It's amazing. I'll tell you what else is amazing. As I'm speaking to you, Sarah, we have just hit a record figure, the number of viewers that we've got for all time. So you have obviously contributed massively to that. So Nigel Farage this morning feeling pretty chipper, is he? Does he think that this is a good result? Because winning would have been great, but coming second is not bad.
Oh, it's a great result for reform. And as I say, we had the dream team sort of operation up here in Gorton and Denton. But yeah, I can't say enough how I feel so bad for Matt Goodwin. He put his heart and soul into it. He worked so hard, but it didn't go our way this time. But yeah, what a strong result for us. We secured our 29-30% of the vote. So it shows that the national polls are have been reflected in this vote. And this was a tough one for us because of the Muslim vote and because of the sort of the lies and the rhetoric that gets put around about reform and how we don't support the sort of ethnic minorities and all that nonsense. Reform are very clear. We support working people, people that are legally in this country, that go out to work, alarm clock Britain we call it, and pay their taxes. They are welcome here. But what we do not support is people that will not integrate into our society, will not learn to speak our language. And what you've seen here is this Green Party embracing that by putting out campaign literature in another language. That, in my view, is absolutely not acceptable and should not be allowed. And I know there's been talk as well about practices in the polling stations and this family voting. And yeah, it's important because the irony for me about this candidate, Hannah, here she is. She's clearly, a local lady. She spoke well, and as I say, congratulations to her. She's won. But how ironic, Mike, that she's gone after the Muslim vote, a section of society which does nothing to promote the value, the equality, of women. Sorry, I'm tired. I'm so tired. I can't get my words out this morning. But does nothing to promote women and the safety of women, equality for women.
Yeah.
In fact, does the very opposite. Marches them into polling station, tells them how to vote, covers them up in burqas, and effectively doesn't even allow the integration of women enough in our society that a lot of these women can't even speak English. And I know that because I've knocked on doors. So the fact is, how ironic that a woman's won it on a Muslim vote, Muslims that don't even, support the equality of women.
Right. And if it does turn out that there has been family voting going on, which as far as I know is illegal in this country, I mean, will you guys be, as Reform, challenging that legally? Will you be challenging the result legally, or are you just going to let it pass?
Look, I think the result is the result. I haven't heard myself about anything like that, and at this stage, I don't think we would. The Greens won by a sizable margin. It wasn't like my 6 votes, was it? In Runcorn and Helsby, that was definitely a historic win and a bit of a near miss. Well, we won it. A win's a win, but it was a bit close. But no, look, they've won. They've won fair and square. And as I say, congratulations to the candidate Hannah, but who will now be joining us on the green benches. But yeah, it absolutely frightening set of policies that does nothing for the British hardworking taxpayer of this country. The only party that represents them now is Reform. And look, Tories absolutely, they're just a busted flush. They're not even going to feature in a general election. Labour are going to lurch to the left, in my view. I think Starmer will hang on because no one's going to want to replace him until after the May elections. So I think he'll be in place until May, then he'll go, and potentially we'll get a Prime Minister which is even further leaning to the left. And that could be Angela Rayner. God help us if it's Ed Miliband. Oh my God, the entire country will be covered with a solar panel, won't it? And a wind turbine. So, but we'll see Labour going to the left because I think Labour very, very much misjudged this campaign here in Gorton and Denton.
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, Sarah, listen, go and get some sleep. Thank you very much for talking to us. Have a great weekend. Sarah Potion then talking to us from Manchester, Gorton and Denton. Won last night by the Green Party, 14,980 votes. Reform, 10,578. Labour into third place as the government with 9,364. Absolutely extraordinary stuff. Let's change tack, though, slightly now, because I'm delighted to say in the studio with me is Pastor Mark Burns. Pastor Mark, a very good morning to you.
Good to see you.
Welcome. Last time we spoke, you were in the United States of America.
That's right.
In the Carolinas, I think.
In the Carolinas.
You are, right? What a fantastic thing to see you here in London. What are you doing in London?
Well, we got a world to save, we got a country to save, and we just
certainly
try
have
to spread peace all over the world.
We've just got a party here, the Green Party, right, who have been victorious up in a part of Manchester which is quite heavily Muslim. They've got the Muslim vote. They've managed to get people to vote for them on the basis not of their policies in the UK, but of their policies in the Middle East. They want to free Palestine. They don't think Israel should exist as a country. This is, I think, a very dangerous development in our politics. I don't know what it's like in the States these days. But also, they want to legalise drugs. They want to legalise prostitution. They want to legalise pornography. They want to make everything that we know to be kind of sacred in this country to be blown up. They want to have open borders. They don't think we should be stopping any migrants from coming and living here. I mean, what is happening to the Western world is my question.
Well, I think it's regardless of they're Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, or whatever their faith is, anybody that wants to support prostitution, anybody that wants to keep open borders, anyone that wants to destroy Israel or any nation for that matter, like Russia trying to destroy Ukraine, I think that is not a society that people should want to live in.
No, I mean, you're a religious man. I mean, is that kind of policy, legalizing drugs and things like that as well? Is it? I mean, would you say that that's evil?
Well, absolutely. I mean, again, the society or the world as a whole is moving away from the ideal that God exists. I say this all the time, especially in America. Whether you were a Democrat or whether you were a Republican or independent, back in the time, everybody at least went to church. Everybody at least believed God. Whatever your faith was, you still believed in a God, which means that we had a moral compass. But now our world is going away from where the belief that a God even exists, which is moving our moral compass away from to where it doesn't even exist.
Well, we have a prime minister who claims to not only not be religious, but to not believe in God at all.
Yeah,
I mean, that can't be good.
Well, I mean, again, that's not good at all. Obviously, we're not a fan of your mayor in the United States. President Trump is not a fan
of Sadiq Khan. Well, he's a Muslim. I mean, he would tell you there is a God, but his God is, I guess, Muhammad.
Your
right?
prime minister as well. A big fan as well. But the reality of it is, anyone that I believe that doesn't have a moral compass, you will get policies like that. I mean, it's happening in America. Transgenderism. With again, that's why I'm thankful for President Trump, who's been fighting from day one. Men will not be able to participate in female sports. We're not allowing children who are underage to manipulate their bodies or to change their sex. And then, of course, you got some areas like in California that's passed laws that says even if you are at least within 10 years of each other, a grown man can have sexual intercourse with a minor, and it's not a federal crime as long as within 10 years. These are facts. These are on the law book.
That's happened under Newsom in California?
In California. And so, and this is supposed to be maybe the leading candidate for the Democratic nomination for the presidency.
That is extraordinary, isn't it? And I mean, it seems like it would be ridiculous if you had told me 20 years ago, that these would be people who would be pushing this kind of ideology. That I mean, they're doing it here. 4 or 5-year-old boys, if they want to dress as girls, can go to school in a dress. It's not a problem. They can determine which gender they wish to be addressed as. I mean, it's completely insane.
Like it's insane. It was more insane that even in like the state of Texas, you have people who are taking kids away from their parents because they're not acknowledging their desire to change their sex. Again, that is ridiculous, and that's the kind of society that is a godless society and a more bankrupt society.
Yeah, and do you feel that we've kind of let this happen? In the sense that
absolutely.
I wonder why, for example, the pretty much minority beliefs have become kind of mainstream. That
absolutely,
we've allowed these left wingers to kind of move into positions of power and then start dictating to us what we have to think.
Mike, we don't vote as a body like we used to as believers. We're not actively politically. I say this all the time. Christians complain that politics is corrupt. But politics is corrupt because Christians aren't involved. Right, so it goes hand in hand. There used to be a time, again, where whether you were Democrat, Republican, or Independent, you may disagree politically, but in the end, on Sundays, you still went to church, or you had a relationship with God. You had a moral compass. We've gotten away from that.
Yeah, and also there's a lot more hatred, isn't there, it seems to me, where, I guess you would say Christianity teaches you to forgive people, to understand them, to kind of maybe forgive whatever they may do or say or believe. and you can even have disagreements with people.
Yes.
Whereas now, in our kind of divided, siloed world, if you're a left winger, you have to hate the right winger. If you're a right winger, you have to hate the left winger.
And again, that's the sign, Mike, of a godless society. Jesus said this: the greatest commandment is to love God with all your heart and all your mind. And then Mike, he said the second unto this is to love your neighbor as you love yourself. So all the hate that is happening around the world is a sign that people simply don't love themselves, right? Because if you loved yourself, then you would really love your neighbor. But when you don't love yourself, when you hate on yourself, it's easy to hate everybody else around you.
Yeah, it is. And often you can see that in even just like personal relationships. If people are horrible to you, or I've got some, former colleagues who have not always been as nice to me as they should be. And you kind of feel sorry for them. I feel sorry for them. So I'm like, if you're that obsessed with me and you're so kind of, eaten up inside by what I'm doing, you need to lie down in a dark room and take a chill pill.
I go to sleep good.
Me too.
You be up at night thinking about me. I'm sleeping good at night.
Exactly right. And when were you last in this country?
See here, I would say about 4 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
about 4 years ago.
I don't know how long you've been here this time, but have you noticed anything different about it? Have you noticed that it's changed in any way? Or does it seem the same to you?
I think society, the world has changed a lot. And again, things is not as conservative as it used to be. Right. Things are not as, again, people don't seem to be as open as they used to be. People seem to be in their own little corners. Again, there's just so much division. But see, my mentality is this, Mike. Listen, I may not agree everything with you, but I will work with you where I can't agree with you on. And I actively might look for things that we can agree on, right? Because there's a lot that we can disagree on, but I'm actively looking for things that we can agree on, and then we'll meet right there. Yeah. I think that's the mindset of Christ.
Right. So what have you been doing in the last few days since you've been here? What's been going on in your world?
This is my last stop on this trip. I was first in Ukraine. Okay. I went and spoke for President Zelensky at his Justice Conference, and then from there, I went to Brussels, spoke at the EU Parliament, and then from there, I'm here, and I met with the Ukrainian ambassador to the UK, and Senator Beer and President individual, and again, just spreading the message of peace. Got to get Russia out of Ukraine, supporting President Trump, supporting, we may be attacking Iran, trying to prevent that from happening, but if Iran does not, capitulate to President Trump's wishes, to not have nuclear weapons and missiles to go along with that, then President Trump is forced to act.
And you've been a kind of an ally and a friend of President Trump's for quite a long time. So are you updating him on what you're
Absolutely,
up to? Absolutely, 100%. So when you saw Zelensky and when you were in Ukraine, what did you gauge there? Did you see any hope for that to come to an end at any point?
We're very close to an end of the deal. President Trump said it to me personally about 2-3 days ago. We're very close to an end of the deal. President Zelensky is saying the same thing. General Budanov is saying the very same thing, that we're very close to an end of the deal. And the next meetings are coming up in March in Geneva, and we're believing for a very good outcome.
Because I saw a piece the other day in one of the papers here that 40,000 Russians a month now are dying. And they're actually losing more troops on a monthly basis than they can recruit. So even from their point of view, and I know it's not like a Western democracy in Russia, and they can be people can be conscripted and made to go and fight on the front line when they don't want to, but even they must want to stop, surely.
Again, I say this all the time. You got Russian women, Russian mothers, Russian grandfathers, old men saying, I will go for my son's place. I will go in my son's place. I will go. I've lived my life. Don't send my son. I mean, that's the mentality. And the same thing happened to the Ukrainians. But the Ukrainians are doing it because they were attacked by, an evil empire. I don't want to say evil empire, but an evil man, by the name of Vladimir Putin. You can't kill little innocent children. You can't kill innocent women and target innocent people and say that you are a Christian or that you are a man of peace. No. Unfortunately, the West has let Ukraine down in 2014. But thank God for President Trump, because President Trump is a man of peace, but he's clearly a man of peace through strength.
Yeah, and he believes that. And I think I believe that alongside him as well. And I think a lot of people in this country would wish that Donald Trump was running Britain, as opposed to this idiot that we've got sitting in Downing Street.
Come on, UK, we'll come to Britain.
Yeah, just come on down, as we would say. But the thing is that in the end, wars will always happen, I
Yes.
guess. Do you think that in the end with Ukraine, Russia will have to be given something in order to walk away? Will they have to be given the Donbass, or will they have to take Crimea, or will they have to take some portion of the land?
I can tell you right now, the number one focus of President Trump, and number one focus of President Zelensky and the negotiators that are communicating with the Russians is that the number one focus, Mike, is to stop the killing. We got to have a ceasefire. It's very difficult to truly negotiate when you got a gun pointed to your head. So right now, their number one focus is not so much about how much land they're giving up or what they're having to lose. Their focus is stopping the killing, right? Because the reality of it is Vladimir Putin does not care about his people. He sends them as a meat to the meat grinder every day. He cares less. And matter of fact, he's not even pulling soldiers from Moscow. He's pulling soldiers from out in Siberia. You know, the people who, you know, in his mind, the unwanted. He's forcing those guys. He's recruiting Africans to come. You know, of course, he connected with the North Koreans to come.
North Koreans at one point.
He's sending people to the front lines, to the meat grinder. He doesn't care about his soldiers. But we all know from the U.S. intelligence community, from the Ukraine intelligence community, from the Europe intelligence community, Vladimir Putin desires to reestablish the USSR. The Vladimir Putin desires to eventually take Ukraine, who doesn't believe it's a real country. He wants to take Ukraine. He's going to go after Poland next, Moldova, Georgia, and then ultimately the Baltic states. So this is why I say, and I'm thankful for at least, you know, UK, you guys you're helping the power grid right now in Ukraine. It's freezing there. It is absolutely freezing there. And people don't have power, but, you know, one of the packages that you all just did, at least it's helping turn the lights back on for a lot of these older women in hospitals, what have you, that are there.
Because 4 years, a very long time, isn't
very
it?
long time. But you got to give it to the Ukrainian people. I mean, in the end, these people have been holding back the full might of the Russian Empire. But they've embarrassed themselves. Russians have embarrassed themselves because the reality of it is they can't take Ukraine. They're killing way too many people. But it is true they have more soldiers than Ukrainian people, so we got to have a peace deal.
I was amazed when not knowing much about that whole region, really. You know, I'm quite happy to admit it. But when it all happened, when it all started, I remember speaking to Keir Starmer, I think, the first time, who's one of the MPs there in the Ukraine Parliament, and it was literally like day 1 or 2 of the war. And you could hear missiles and bullets flying, and she was talking to me in her apartment, and I said, "Well, I guess you better, you know, get out because you know it sounds like the firing is coming pretty close." And she's like, "I'm not going anywhere." And I went, "Sorry."
The resilience.
No, amazing. And she was like, "No, I'm going to stay here." And she's like, "I've got a gun, and if they come anywhere near me, I'm gonna be shooting at them."
Slava Ukraine.
What? That's amazing. I'd never seen anything like that. You know, and she's a beautiful woman. You know, we can say that on this show because, you know, we don't mind being accused of misogyny, you know. But, you know, and I've got to know her quite well, and she's an incredible woman and really, really strong and brave and kind of just, you can't quite, takes your breath away for me. You know, that they're so proud of their country. And they don't want to give any of it up.
No.
And why should they?
Well, I mean, again, they shouldn't. You know, they shouldn't. At the end of the day, we got to stop the war. We got to stop the killings. We got to make sure that the sovereign nation of Ukraine lasts. But listen, at the end of the day, we got to close the borders. We got to close the borders in America. We got to close the borders here in Great Britain. We got to get those that are here hurting and harming people out of the country. And we got to make our nation safe again.
And Donald Trump's done that to a large extent.
Listen, he just did the State of the Union. And he declared to the whole world, we've had 0 illegal immigrants entered our nation for the first time. Under Donald Trump's presidency, because he's shutting down the border. We want immigrants to come. Let's be very clear. We're not closing off the immigrants. It's not the Ku Klux Klan, right? We want immigrants to come. But we want immigrants to come the correct way.
But for the right reason. I always said when I first lived in New York City, I lived there from 1983 till about 92. And it was a melting pot. There was people from all over the world there. But they all wanted to be from New York. They all wanted to be American. They didn't want to be like we have the problem here where we've got these you know, Muslim communities in the north of England who vote for, you know, a party because of what they want to do with Palestine, you know. These people in America all wanted to be American. And I think that was the great guiding principle. That was under Ronald Reagan, who for me was one of the great presidents, you know. And he used to talk about America being this great, you know, glistening sepulchre on a hill, which people could look up to and go, that's where we want to be. You know, that is exactly the place we want to live in. And I want Britain to be like that. I want people to want to live here because it's so great.
Right, it's a great nation.
Not because we hand you loads of free benefits,
right.
We give you a free house, and we let you just wander about and have the same rights as everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
No, you need to earn that, I think.
Absolutely. Well, President Trump has that same vision for America. Again, we America was built on the backs of immigrants, slaves, those who came from other places to come to the melting pot we call the United States of America. But again, they should be coming to be American, to wave the American flag. I'm happy President Trump has made it clear we're burning an American flag in America is illegal, and it should be because, again, this is the nation of the United States of America. We're not the nation of many small nations. We are a melting pot, and we have beautiful cultures from all over the world. And people should be proud of their cultures.
Sure.
But at the same time, you've come into the greatest nation we believe called the United States of America. That is the red, the white, and the blue of the American flag. And that should be the heartbeat of every person that comes to our nation, not any other flag, and downing the American flag while raising up another nation's flag. Again, my heart, as I always said for the last 14 years that I've been doing this, Mike, if you really love that nation that much, then go back to that nation. You can be proud from where you're from. You can be proud of your heritage, but you don't got to crap on the United States of America flag to promote your flag.
Exactly right. Now, last time we spoke, you were very kind and you gave a prayer to us for the people of Britain. It hasn't worked out too well so far. I have to say.
We got to keep praying, Mike.
We got to keep praying. So I want to ask you to do another prayer this time. This time, though, I want you to do us a prayer for the people of Gorton and what is it? Gorton and Henton. Denton. Gorton and Denton, because they've just elected this crazy woman from the Green Party who wants to legalise brothels and prostitution and drugs. And
we can't have those evil things.
So can you give us a quick prayer for those
Absolutely.
good people,
I'm going to pray
please?
for Aisha, too. She's in the audience somewhere. We're praying that she stop cussing. She's on the other side of here. And I'm praying really hard that we take her, we stop cussing. We're going to work on it right now.
We'll do our best, right?
Miss Aisha, yes.
Yeah.
Listen, Father, in the name of Jesus Christ, we thank you so much for your love, your mercy, we're all messed up. We're all individuals who have sinned and falling short of the glory of God. But Lord, your mercy is so wonderful. Now, Father, we ask you for Denton, protect those people there, the prostitution, the drugs, those things. They're from the gates of hell. They're designed to destroy families. They break up families. They harm people. They allow sin to enter into the heart, and it is not the heart of God. Father, you've created our great nation of the United States of America and Great Britain with the idea that people have the right to worship the living God in peace and freedom. And I believe you blessed the two nations because we honor God, the living Jesus Christ. And so, Father, bless them. Bless those who desire to be peaceful and whole and desire to live in a free nation and to grow and prosper and protect their families and protect their children. But, Father, prostitution should be evil and illegal. Drugs should be evil and illegal. Anyone trying to, change their sex for children, that is illegal. Men trying to participate in female sports should be wrong. It is from the gates of hell. Bring back the conservative family, Father, where the husband, the mother, the father, the children are all together as one people, as one family. And that's what made Great Britain great. And I believe by the blood of the Lamb, you'll make Great Britain great again. So protect us. We believe in your word. In the end, we know you're coming back with omnipotent power in your hands. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, bless Mike Graham and this wonderful show that they continue to speak the truth to the world and bring people together in peace and harmony. It is so. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen, indeed. Pastor Mark Burns, thank you very much indeed.
Amen.
That is great. I feel better already. Pastor Mark Burns, so good to see
Mike,
you.
it's so great meeting you.
Great to have you here.
Absolutely.
We'll see you again soon. Maybe we'll come visit you in Carolina.
You got to come to the Carolinas.
Yeah.
You got great barbecue.
Yeah, well, listen, I played a lot of golf there back in the day when I was...
we got to get you to Trump golf.
Hilton Head Island, where I used to
Charleston.
go and hang out. Yeah, very nice. Great stuff. Fantastic to see you. What a guy. Brilliant. This is the only place you get this kind of conversation in this country because, Pastor Mark Burns knows where it is happening, and it's happening right here on the Mike Graham Show. So, coming up to 3 minutes past 9, let's get the news with Edward Hughes.
Good morning, all. Here's the news with me, Edward Hughes. In a major political shock, the Green Party has won the Gorton and Denton by-election, their first ever Westminster seat victory. Hannah Spencer took the Manchester seat with around 41% of the vote, pushing Reform UK into second and Labour into third, dealing a significant blow to Prime Minister Keir Starmer and highlighting fractures in traditional party support. Party leader Zach Polanski has said that he will treat himself to a new hammer to brush his teeth with. Elsewhere, Soham murderer Ian Huntley was seriously injured in a prison attack and is fighting for his life. Such a terrible shame. Concerns are growing over youth unemployment, with the number of young people not in education, employment or training nearing 1 million, prompting calls for urgent action. This is the big story bubbling, folks. We should be worried. A damning report highlights failures in NHS maternity care, including racism, bullying, and covered-up errors. Other stories include the Ministry of Defence reviewing possible Jeffrey Epstein, links to RAF bases, and activists planning protests over the environmental and social impacts of expanding AI data centres. That's the key UK news roundup for today. Remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
Thank you very much indeed, Edward Hughes there with the news. Coming up to 4 minutes past 9. We've got Neil Oliver coming in to talk to us very shortly. But before we do that, Anna McGovern is here. Anna, very good morning to you.
Lovely to see you.
I'm feeling cleansed now because Pastor Mark has kind of sorted me out, and I feel as though, you know, I have got a mission in life, which is to, you know, improve everybody's lives and to continue to pass on the good message. You were here last Friday, and you were kind enough to stay around for Plonk of the Week, so I'm hoping you'll be able to do that again. Are you? You're not going to tell me you're just coming in on Fridays now because you know that you're going to get a glass of champagne. So what can I do for you? What have you got for us today?
We have the Gorton and Denton relation first.
What do you make of that?
Gosh. I think what I found really interesting as well is the Conservative Party. They only got 706
I know. Lost their deposit, right?
What I know.
I mean, I don't know, to be honest. I probably should know, but I don't know what they did at the last general election. But I know it's a very safe Labour seat, so they probably haven't got many places to go. But equally, they probably had more votes than that last time around, didn't they?
I think it just shows the mood of this country as well. The Conservative Party is truly dead.
Yeah.
I think when we're coming up to the election, it will definitely be a case between Farage and Polanski.
Yeah.
And I think it's what people are just so fed up.
Yeah.
So those on the left, those on I think with the Labour Party in of themselves, no one trusts them anymore.
No.
They don't believe
There's
in
a definite sense that nobody trusts Keir Starmer anymore. They think he's a busted flush. They don't think he should be in Downing Street. Even if they don't particularly like Labour, they dislike him even more, don't they? So, I mean, even if Labour continues to be the Parliament, the party of choice running the government, they don't want him running it.
No, I think he's the most. I think he's the worst prime minister ever ranked. He
really is
the most unpopular.
He really is, and I mean, but not just by actual definition. But he just there isn't any one group of people. I mean, he went up to Denton as well. We haven't really mentioned this in the middle of the week, which is now looking like a really bad idea because a lot of people said at the time, if he's gone up there, that must mean that they think they've got a chance. And people have been telling me, oh, do you know what? Labour are doing a lot better than the polls are suggesting. Well, really? Apparently not. So now the fact that he went up there and he walks into a room which is full of, you know, Labour supporters, all cheering and clapping like a seal, you know, as if he's actually popular. And he didn't go out and meet anybody. Because you're too frightened to be called bad names, right?
I think those on the left as well that would have voted for Labour, even they don't support Labour anymore. And of course, the Greens are now growing in popularity. And I think people are just so fed up with the party in power.
Yeah.
And I think the vote, it just demonstrates that with the Greens then winning.
Yeah. Do you not think as well, though, that the Polanski kind of bubble, if you like, is a bit of a red herring, to mix my metaphors? Because I don't know whether in any other situation they would win seats in the same way, you know, because they obviously are completely and utterly kind of exploited the Muslim population, decided to really, you know, go for them, putting out campaign literature in Urdu and in Bangla and all of that stuff, which I think most people would find pretty repulsive. But I just wonder if that, as a one-trick pony type operation, would work in all sorts of other situations. I don't think it would.
No, I don't think so. And I remember seeing the video as well in Urdu, and I actually had to look it up on Instagram to see that it was real, because when I saw it, I thought it was a meme or like generated
like a parody,
by AI. It's actually real. That is real campaign material that they produced to get them on side. I think it just shows the state that we're currently in this country.
Right. And she will go, Hannah Bennett, is it? No, Hannah Spencer. I don't know why I want to call her Hannah Bennett. she will go down to Parliament and she will sit behind Reform with some of the other kind of Green Party members who happen to be from ethnic minorities and who are really not there because they believe in climate change. They're there because they believe in, freeing Palestine, which has got nothing to do with being green, really.
Yeah, exactly. And
apart from green, red, and white, I suppose, in the flag. That's the green they mean, isn't it?
Yeah, because that was I think that was the main part of the campaign as well. But what about the issues that affect the community? What about what was happening in this country, not in other countries?
Exactly. Well, what about, I don't know, the crime statistics in Gorton and Denton? What about, the housing crisis? Or what about the lack of housing? What about the illegal migrants? I mean, there's all sorts of issues that we could be looking at, which I don't think the Greens are going to really address.
Yeah, and back to the Conservative as well, losing so badly in that election as well. Like, just to imagine Labour, the last government in power, and now only 706 votes.
Yeah.
I think the Conservative Party is dead. I think the vote demonstrates that.
Yeah.
And
I'll tell you who else is even more dead than that. Rejoin EU was a party, right? Do you know how many votes they got? 98.
98.
I mean, not even 100.
Oh,
I mean, I've had more people in the studio.
The Coastal Communist League was on there, 23 votes or something along those lines?
The Monster Raving Loony Party did better than Advance as well, which kind of tells you about all these people who keep saying, why don't you get Ben Habib on the show? And what about Rupert Lowe and Restore Britain? Well, I mean, I'm afraid the numbers don't lie. 154 people voted for Nick Buckley, and that's 5 fewer than the Monster Raving Loony Party.
That is not good news for Advance. No. I did see that Ben Habib did a video aimed at Rupert Lowe. I think sometimes, I think the fight... they
just keep fighting with each other,
exactly.
don't they?
There's so much infighting within the right. They can't just come together and unite on the issue, because I think if you've got all of these parties splintering off, it's not going to work. At the end of the day, you need to come together.
But there were lots who thought that Advance might split the Reform vote, but that clearly didn't happen. Because, I mean, Reform literally got 10,578, which is quite a lot more than 154. Plank of the week tonight at 7 o'clock. For the first time, we've got Lucy Connolly on the show.
Ooh, wow.
She was on Twitter yesterday. She had a bit of a spat with Femi, the world's most idiotic man. Tell us about what happened.
So, I actually also have a fun fact about Femi, that he's been to my house years ago.
Has he?
Yes.
Was he stalking you?
No, not this time. But so this was years and years ago, before I had actually gotten into politics. My brother was I think it's like a Remainer.
Oh, was he?
And he came to our house, to our back garden, to do a video with my brother.
Oh, wow.
Interesting fact there. And he was nice to all of us. But when I saw this video he posted yesterday of Lucy Connolly, I thought it was
he was on a train with her, right? And he saw that it was her, and he just kind of started filming her.
Yeah, like staring over at her, filming her. And I think it doesn't matter about your politics. That is just creepy and really scary to be in that situation, because that's happened to me before, where I've been on a train and I remember there was a random guy there who started taking pictures of me for, I think it was like almost an hour. And I didn't realise it at first until I saw through the window that his camera was open. He's like zooming in. I did confront him and say, stop taking pictures, delete them. And he did, and I think for him that was sort of weirdly validating that I'd noticed him and gone over to him. But ever since, it's made me feel very high alert on the train, because the fact that someone just felt free to do that and take pictures of me while I'm just trying to go about my day.
I mean, this is in no way similar, obviously, but I remember I was on holiday once with my kids, and I think I was in Rhodes, Lindos, and we were out for dinner, and this guy took a picture of me actually sitting at the table having dinner with my kids, and put it on Twitter and said, I've just seen Mike Graham in Greece. I'm like... And I messaged him. I said, "Would you mind taking that down? I'm on holiday with my children, and you haven't asked for permission to take my picture. If you want to come and get a picture, come and see me. But please take it down.
Don't just take pictures of people randomly.
And then publish them. It's like really creepy, like you say. And so he was kind of trying to make out that this is the world's most hideous woman, Lucy Connolly, who, by the way, is lovely. It was the first time I'd actually met her. I've had her on my show a couple of times, but the first time I met her yesterday, and she's a really just nice, ordinary person, and the idea that she has to put up with this kind of crap is extraordinary.
And, she didn't know who Femi was at the time. So, you've got someone who's filming you, taking photos, looking over. That would be incredibly intimidating, especially for someone like her. She's got quite a big public presence. And then you've got someone who's filming you. Yeah. And then not only that, but then putting it on Twitter as well. Yeah. I think it's not about politics at the end of the day. He could disagree with her. That's absolutely fine. But I think the fact that he felt that he could take a video of her and then post it on X, I really don't think that's on.
No, and I think that shows you what sort of person he is. He and I had a run-in years ago when I invited him into my show when I was at Talk Radio, in the old Talk Radio days when we were in Hatfields near Waterloo. And I threw him out because we were having a row. It was before the actual Brexit. I guess it must have been before the Brexit referendum. It might have been after. But it was around about that time anyway, around about sort of 2016, 2017. And he still talks about it now, like literally, almost 10 years later, still says that, because at one point he says to me, do you know what the single market is? And I went, no, of course I don't know what the single market is. And so he thought that was a real answer and was like, oh, so you don't even know what the single market is? And I said, well, why don't you tell me what it is?
Yeah.
And then he said, well, it's when you have the same goods and services, pay the same money for the same things. I'm like, well, I know what it is, but it doesn't mean anything to me. And then he also said one thing that was completely wrong, where he said, the European Union has managed to stop all wars in Europe, ever since its inception after the Second World War. And I said, well, what about Bosnia? And he went, huh? What? He didn't know about Bosnia. He didn't know that there'd been a war in the Balkans, which had actually been started by the European Union, effectively. So the guy's an idiot, and, good riddance to him. But even I wouldn't take pictures of him on a train.
No. I think even if you disagree with someone as well, because obviously they've clearly got very different politics, obviously. But I think at the end of the day, it's not about politics. You would feel very... I don't know. If I was in that situation, I would personally feel very uncomfortable if someone was looking over at me, making faces. That's what she said.
Well, there should be a thing as such as common decency, it seems to me. It's like that other idiot, that wears the blue outfit down at Westminster, who's there all the time. What's his name?
Oh, yes.
Who's one of Femi's kind of fellow travellers. He's just really rude and horrible.
Is that the one who dresses up as the EU?
Yeah, he dresses up in the EU flag, and it's like, stop Brexit, and he shouts, and whenever
what's his name?
Steve, that's right, yeah. And he stands, and he's obviously being paid by somebody, because I think he lives in Westminster. And he just literally goes to College Green every day. Wow. So whenever you interview anybody, he stands behind them with a sign that says, stop Brexit and all this kind of thing. And he's, again, just a really nasty individual. He's just a horrible guy. And he's had a few run-ins with some politicians, like Lee Anderson's pushed him, nicked his hat a couple of times and stuff, because he just gets in people's faces and comes right up next to you. I remember when we used to broadcast from down there, he would come right behind the tent that we were in and have this massive kind of, speaker and would just blast music or something, so that you couldn't broadcast.
Oh my
What's the matter with you? You complete idiot. Here's from Brian. Mike, it's not illegal to film or take pictures of people in a public place. No, it's not illegal. There are many things that are not illegal. But it's not right, is what I'm saying. And technically speaking, because I know a little bit about this, you can say that a train is not actually a public place. A train is a place which is owned by a private company. And they can prevent you from taking pictures of people on the train
to be fair,
if they so wish.
I was going to say, when I did report what happened to me to the police, so when I spoke to one officer, they said it could come under upskirting potentially. Right. But then, so I had an interview, but then afterwards,
which is illegal, obviously.
Yeah, of course. But then, basically, when I had I had a chat with another officer, because they said, because you're in a public place, there isn't really anything they could do. And I said, is that even though he was taking photos of me for almost an hour, and I had evidence as well, because what I did, I got my phone and because I stood there for almost 10 minutes while he was deleting the pictures individually. I stood there and I actually got a video of him doing it with the pictures of me, so I had the evidence. And they said, well, because you're in a public space, there isn't, he technically has the right to do that. But then, exactly what you said. It's common decency as well, because it's just weird. Why would you just sit there taking pictures or videos of someone in a public space like that? It's strange.
It's very odd, and it's very strange behaviour. If anybody's doing it, you don't do it. You just shouldn't be doing it. Anna, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank
we'll
you.
be seeing you back in a moment, because we're going to do Plonk of the Week, of course, with Chris Walkie, who's here with Oliver. I don't know what we're doing today, but I'll tell you soon. Oh, have you? Okay. We're going to be putting it out Saturday night, of course, 7 o'clock. Oh, Matthias Rosé. Nice. Oh, it's back to the 70s, right? Are we going to have some prawn cocktail with that? because that's what you usually have to have with that. Prawn cocktail and chicken Kiev, I think, was the menu, wasn't it? But I'll tell you what we're going to do next is we're going to talk to Neil Oliver, one of our favourite guests. Oh, he's not here, sorry. But we will talk to him soon. Well, why don't we do something else, Pooch, and play...
Let's look at the Lucy Powell video.
Lucy Powell, yes, of course. This dreadful, ghastly, awful woman from the Labour government. Just look at how chippy she is after that result last night.
Look in the background.
I've just looked it up. It'll be the Labour's 7th worst ever by-election defeat. It's a disaster, isn't it?
What, do you know the percentages, do you?
Not yet, but...
Right, so I don't know how you can work any of those things out. But look, I think, at the start of this campaign, I think the vast majority of pundits and others like yourselves had written us off. We have been in contention in this seat. People have been grappling with what to do, choosing between Labour and Reform, Labour and the Greens in many parts of the constituency, choosing between Labour and Reform in other parts of it. And, on the day, the Greens have won that argument more strongly than we have about keeping out Reform. But at the next general election, the choice across the country, not just in one constituency, the choice across the country will be between a Reform government or a Labour government, and I think that will focus people's minds in a different way. But what we've got to do in the meantime, between now and the next general election, is show people that we are on their side, that we are delivering for people, that we are delivering on our Labour values and telling a strong Labour story about how we are changing this country and about why we are the best vehicle to defeat Reform at the next election and to carry on delivering those values, because those values are what unite most people in this constituency. I'm really clear about that.
I know you voted to let Andy Burnham be a candidate here. You were 1 against 8. Looks like a bad decision, that, by the executive and the Prime Minister, doesn't it?
Well, that's been written about plenty. I don't know that we need to write about that, anymore. And Andy Burnham, no one wanted to win this seat more for Labour than Andy Burnham and Keir Starmer, and both of them have played their role in this campaign alongside me, because what we've seen actually in the last 3 or 4 weeks is the whole Labour team pulling together as one team. Andy Burnham, Keir Starmer, Lucy Powell, Angela Rayner, Wes Streeting, the whole of the cabinet coming and working as one Labour team to try and get our message across to the voters in this constituency. And I hope that's something we can build on in coming weeks, because when you work as...
Oh, we're back. Oh, sorry. We were too busy having a laugh there. I was just saying, isn't it great that we've had our show blessed by Pastor Burns, who
that was really
is
nice
a
to see.
fantastic character. And he came into the show today. If you haven't seen it, you've got to watch it back, because not only is he a fantastic sort of raconteur, and not only brilliant at his explanations of the world and what it's like and how Donald Trump is a great president and all of that, because he's Donald Trump's favourite pastor, talks to him every day. But he blessed the show. So I can officially say this is, technically speaking, not only the highest rated YouTube breakfast show in Britain, it's also the only one that's been blessed, right? Because he hasn't blessed GB News, right? He hasn't blessed ITV. He hasn't blessed the BBC. Certainly hasn't blessed Talk. Certainly hasn't blessed LBC and James O'Brien. I mean, he's a bloody atheist as well, no doubt. But he's blessed the Mike Graham show. So I mean, what more could you want? Let's talk a little bit about this story on the front page, because although we've been talking mostly about the whole Gorton and Denton by-election story, the big story, which we would be talking about an awful lot of, would be the story on the front page of the Mail and the Sun about the Soham murderer Ian Huntley. You probably don't remember the Soham murders because you're way too young. But it was one of the most horrible things that happened. It was in 2002. 2 little 10-year-old girls, Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman. It was a very famous picture that has been sort of embedded in my brain because I was in newspapers at the time. And that picture there, which is the 2 girls, I think it's taken on the very day that they disappeared, because he was a school caretaker and he kind of lured them into his house. And with the help of his partner, Maxine Carr, he kind of got involved in molesting them and then killing them. And he's just one of the world's most horrific criminals. And he's been beaten to within an inch of his life by this other guy, Anthony Russell, who is a 43-year-old triple killer, basically attacked him with an iron bar. And we were talking earlier that, you know, in these kind of cases, you know, you don't wish necessarily ill on anybody, but you know, I don't think anybody would care if you didn't emerge out of it from the other side. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think this was before my time. Yeah, well, that's horrific. I can't believe it. Yeah,
it's one of those just horrible stories. And you know, when people talk about crime and punishment, and when people talk about the death penalty and stuff like that, people will genuinely say, well, you know, I wouldn't mind if they killed this guy because, you know, his crime was so horrific, taking those two little girls and making the last kind of hours of their life just awful and hideous, and their parents, I can't imagine what they'd be going through. But apparently he's fighting for his life currently in hospital, and the son's got Soham Monster, as he's known, fights for life. And again, I don't know what you feel about the death penalty, but in these kinds of cases, I don't think most people would disagree with it.
Yeah, this is what I was going to say, because there's a lot of debate about the death penalty and if it should happen in this country. I think for the worst possible crimes like this, for example, I think a lot of people wouldn't necessarily mind if the death penalty came into effect for people like this, like for the worst crimes.
Yeah, absolutely right. There's another clip that we haven't played, actually, Pooch, which we could play, and this one is a bit of a weird one. Sherry Blair, right, talking about her husband. Should we have a look at that?
What would you say are his flaws? He is an amazing politician. As a husband and as a human being, that's a different matter, but that's really between me and him.
This is where she says that in that documentary about Blair, which I haven't watched. I don't know if you've watched it. It's on Channel 4.
I haven't.
I tried to watch it, do you know what? And my Wi-Fi is so bad where I live, right, that I couldn't get it to work. I had to download the Channel 4 app, which I didn't have, not surprisingly. And I just couldn't load the thing up. So I keep meaning to watch it in the weekend. So I'll maybe try and watch it this weekend. But she basically says that Tony Blair was a much better politician than he was a husband. And I'm not quite sure what she means by that, but she goes, you know, as a human being and a husband, that was a very different matter. But, you know, that's between him and me. So there's obviously a little trouble in paradise when it comes around to that. And now here's another one that I thought I'd ask you about, because you're I don't want to sound patronising, but you're a young person. Parents are now an invisible welfare state for young adults who are less likely to find jobs because they're living at home cost-free. This is coming from Alan Milburn, who was in Blair's government, who's now in the government of this particular time. What do you find when you speak to your friends? A lot of your friends still live with their parents?
Or they're stuck in the rental market, especially in London, because a lot of the best career opportunities typically are in London. And I think that a lot of blame is put onto young people, and they're told they're lazy, they don't want to work. But I actually think that there's a lot more that goes into it than that. I believe there was, I remember seeing this in the news recently, that I think it was between like 24, 25, so loads of, I think it's about 1 million graduate, over 1 million. I can't remember the exact statistics. But
there's about 1 million people who've never worked, right? Is that the one?
This was about graduates specifically.
Oh, right.
So there was a statistic about I think it was over 1 million graduates during this time. Only 100,000 jobs. I'll need to get the exact graduate jobs available to them at the time. So I think it's so much harder. Like a lot of the my friends that I've spoken to as well, it is so hard now to get a job, because with you come out of university straddled with all of this debt when you're and I think it's so competitive now, especially with AI is now coming in and replacing jobs. And a lot of these employers, they'll expect years of experience for entry-level jobs. It's like, how do I get the experience if I've just graduated university? It's meant to be an entry-level job.
I mean, like to my kids as well. I mean, one of them's at university currently and one of them isn't. But the one who isn't is probably going to be better off in 2 or 3 years' time, because he'll have been working in the workplace and he'll have got himself to a certain level, whereas his older brother, who comes out of university this year, will sort of be starting now as opposed to starting, 3 years ago. I think it's really difficult for a lot of people, because we hear all the time from parents who say, my son's got a degree, even in something good like engineering, but he can't get a job because nobody's offering them one.
And I think as well, because the rental market, it's so expensive now, especially in London. Like you're looking at least £1,000 a month, and that's on the cheaper end.
And that's for like
to
a
get
room in a place, right?
And with like several housemates as well.
Right.
You get a tiny room for that probably.
Yeah.
And
you get to share a kitchen.
Yeah, exactly. And
I can't imagine anything worse.
And how is it possible for young people to get on the housing ladder when you're spending like over £1,000 a month on rent just to get a box room, just to get the opportunity and like
Well, I
have the
think for
career
an
and
awful lot of
everything?
people, the reality is unless your parents have got property which they're likely to leave you and they die, you're never going to get a house that you can own because in certainly the southeast, it's just too expensive, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I think for lots of young people, like the friends that I've spoken to as well, they're worried that they will never get on the housing ladder because it's so expensive now, and they're trapped in rental cycles, or they're living at home to save money. But I think that's the only way, really.
Well, Kelvin MacKenzie, who was in earlier, was saying that obviously he knows members of his family, some of his grandchildren and stuff who haven't moved out of the family home, and it's really not good training for them because they get to the point where they kind of rely on the fact that they don't have to pay to live anywhere, and so they might spend their money on other things, or they might go on nice holidays, or they might go on, or get themselves a car or something like that. But what they don't ever worry about is paying for where they live, So he was saying that a lot of people that he knows are charging now their own children to live in the family home.
Oh, really?
Just to kind of get them into the habit of paying for it, even if it's only a few £100 a month, just so that they don't in their head think, oh, well, I can just live here for the rest of the time and my mother will keep doing my washing and I'll come home and there'll be food on the table and all of that. Because it kind of lures you into a bad place, doesn't it?
Well, I think there is a lot of bad rep at the moment on young people as well, and I think especially nowadays it is so much harder in terms of like getting on the housing ladder, and then also for young people getting opportunities as well. I think there needs to be more help for them, really. Like to get into, I just think it's
You don't
really
want to give them any more free stuff,
not
surely.
Free stuff. I just mean in terms of support, because I think at the moment that young people get a lot of bad rap and told you're lazy, you're not working, but then it's like, well, provide them the opportunity to be able to do that.
I think just open up the chimneys and send them up the chimneys again.
Not free things.
And down the mines. That's the problem, isn't it? There's nowhere for them to go. Anyway, listen, Anna, great to see you.
Thank you. It's really great to be here.
You've thankfully sat in because we can't get hold of Neil Oliver for some reason. He was supposed to be on, but we'll try and get him on next week. This from Rebecca, who says, the Tony Blair series is great to watch, particularly in light of what's going on at the moment. With Epstein, it doesn't let any of them get away with it. The lingering shots on the faces say more than the words. Interesting. One from Red Black says, my mum's house is 300,000 quid if anyone's interested. Well, I think it depends where it is, really, and what sort of house it is. And I'm sure nobody's sitting around with 300,000 quid rather, sitting idly in their bank account. Sherry Blair looks so miserable, same as the country, due to her husband, says disgruntled. Yeah, she didn't look too happy, did she? Pooch said she looked like his nan. There we are. Sherry Blair, yeah, there you go. Right, so anyway, we've reached the end of another week, 9:30, themikegrahamshow.com. Oh, we've got a herring of the day? Yeah. A couple of herrings of the day. Lovely ties this week, 2 lovely ties. This is a great one, by the way. This is, what's it called? I can't quite read the caption.
It's called a...
Blue-throated or something, is it? Tiger heron?
Boat-billed heron.
Boat-billed heron.
Very cool.
It looks kind of human, doesn't it?
It's lovely.
It's really nice, that, with the blue. It looks very kind of thoughtful, pensive, I'd say. Very nice.
I like that picture.
Anna likes dogs.
And Anna likes dogs, apparently.
Love
so
dogs.
let's have a look at a couple of Pooch's Pooch. These, I think, are going to be, these are amazing. These are, what do they call these? Malinois dogs, right? Being trained to be walking dogs, right? Look at them, how they go down all the same way. And well, listen, it's been a great week. Thanks to everyone for watching. And more record numbers, by the way. So thank you very much indeed. 7 o'clock tonight, Plank of the Day, of course. And then Plank of the Week, I should say. Plonk of the Week. We didn't do Plank of the Day today, did we? We forgot. Never mind. Plonk of the Week coming up. We're about to film it. And so we're about to have a couple of tipples, if you don't mind. And that will go out 7 o'clock tomorrow night. On all the usual places on the YouTube channel. You can find links to it on Twitter and on Facebook, of course, as well. We'll see you. Have a great weekend. By the way, we'll be telling you soon how you can get your hands on one of these bumper stickers. We're just waiting for the proper PO box address to come our way, which we should have. If not by Monday, it'll be probably by Tuesday.
Nice.
And meanwhile, have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy. I think the next time we see you, it will be March, won't it? Because it's now Friday the 27th of February. So yeah, next week it'll be March. We'll be into the third month of this show, going from strength to strength. Have a lovely weekend. We'll see you Monday at 7 a.m. sharp. And enjoy. See you soon.
Remember, despite all of the others out there, it's always the others. Don't be a plank.